Welcome to Crimeycade. I'm the mad conservative crime fighter, Stephen Lucas. No, I didn't even pull out the daggum headset. I'm having to use the webcam's audio. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I just don't like the quality of the audio on the camera, but since I didn't set it up, I've been trying to mess with that silly camera up there as Cody the Crasher cat, who may or may not join us as this podcast unfolds. I expect him to do so at some time tonight because that's what he does. But right before I got out of bed, he decided to start throwing things on the ground off this desk and make a big old mess. So, boy, I have to have something over here. I see it, but I can't tell what it is. Anyway, throw this up here. So, wow. Stand by 1 second. Here. No, I got the wrong thing. Anyway. Oh, well, it'll move on. So please follow my podcast page on facebook.com/Crimeycade. I need to get to 100 followers on it so I can co-stream on that platform besides Twitch. Also, if you're watching, please follow this Twitch channel. I only need 4 more followers to get to 100, and that's another plateau before I can expand the audience even further. Yes, I need 100 followers. If you haven't noticed, a lot of GameStops around here have been closing their doors, and I saw a Facebook post a short while ago from our guest on last week's program, the Gamer Aimer, Brandy Aimer, got herself a Nintendo Switch kiosk for free. A GameStop in her area, I guess, was closing down, and they were just getting rid of stuff. And she got herself a free kiosk. Where she's going to put it in her house, we don't know. Her place was pretty crowded, pretty filled up with games and game systems and kiosks. It's like, where are you going to put this thing? And she's talking about, well, maybe I'm going to have to move to a bigger house fairly soon. Well, I don't know where she's going to put it. And that's going to be a fun time for her to find a spot for a Nintendo Switch kiosk. But those GameStops all over the country are closing their doors. And I've got a GameStop game card that I've not used up, and I need to use it up. Because how long will GameStop be around? There'll be some around, but maybe not any in my area. Or maybe the whole chain goes under. Don't know. Place has been going under lately is Big Lots. The whole chain was going under, although somebody bought out a portion of the store, so the brand will stay alive. Party City will be going out of business as well. And I picked up a few gaming items from it, party supplies and stuff. So, welcome in. Video Game Votary is so I will have an announcement on next week's guests. I have another roundtable, and I secured my third person around the round table at the very last moment. Yes, she'll find room for it. I'm just not sure how she's going to cram it in. And speaking of cramming things in, probably on the flip side of this podcast, I have stuff to talk about Goblin Ghost and their new changes to their Monday Mystery Game, as they have officially run out of room, and they're going to be changing things up in a dramatic way. But that'll be on the backside of this podcast. And the chase for tokens, of course, still going on at Galloping Ghost. Andrew Owasco is past 9,500. Masa Zagopian has moved up to the third spot. He was in fifth, so he got past me and Jamie Tibbetts. I will be going back to the Galloping Ghost this weekend. It's a 3-day weekend, Martin Luther King Day weekend. So, yeah, I've got some catching up to do. I've got one challenge left on my challenge card series. I got 150,000 on Food Fight. And power rankings, well, the top 10 pretty much is the same, although Andrew Owasco did surpass the 200 mark in number of house highs and world records at the Galloping Ghost Arcade, which is right now sitting at 1,022 games. There are 3 more games to go on the arcade floor, and then they're going to start changing things up. And this is the Arcade Wars Game of the Month, Pro Gear by Capcom and Cave. Only 2 scores in. So get as high a score as you can in one of the participating arcades and submit it, because the 2025 season has begun. And I imagine Galloping Ghost wants to redeem itself after its 2024 4th place finish, because they want to finish on top all the time. And this is scheduled events for Bloody Wars Tournament. The next Bloody Wars event will be on February 8th. It's FL Blitz 99. JP Pitts wants to be on the program fairly soon, and I had to do it on Wednesday. And the Midwest Gaming Classic, I have my tickets. April 4th through the 6th of 2025. Hope you can be there. But speaking of game cons, well, let me get to this, because my guests are going to come up. The next one I'm going to show after this is one of my guests. So here we go. Columbia, Missouri, Como Retro Game Convention on April the 19th, 2025 in Columbia, Missouri. Also, I didn't put this in here. C2E2 is the second weekend of April, right in between these 2 conventions. So if I'm going to go for a belt, I'm going to have to make a decision here as to what I'm going to do. But tonight is Gaming Convention Organizers Roundtable Round 2. And first up, representing, let me throw this up here, representing the Game Central Station is Tony Ruark. And your mic is off. There you go. Mic is on.
I am here.
Welcome to the Crimeycade. I see that your event.
Thanks for having us.
Coming up April 26th and 27th in Athens, Georgia. Where's that in relation to Atlanta?
So it's actually Athens, Georgia, but it's home of the Bulldogs.
Which was direction from Atlanta, or is it a suburb?
We are northeast of Atlanta.
Okay. Athens is the correct pronunciation. Okay, because we have an Athens, Illinois, but they pronounce it Athens. For some bizarre reason, I don't know why. Next up on. By the way, I have been dealing with sinus issues, so hopefully I don't start hacking with the lung, but I got the mute button ready, so.
That stuff definitely has been going around.
Yeah, it's only a sinus infection. I thought I had the full-blown common cold, but no. This is all I got.
Lucky.
Well, this is something we had 2 weeks ago, the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. That's in June 2025 in Atlanta, Georgia, like a couple of months after Game Station or Game Central Station. By the way, that matches up the name of the place in Wreck-It Ralph. I'll have to ask about that. Next up, however, coming up into July and stepping up for the Southeast Game Exchange in Greenville, South Carolina, is Austin Bell. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, and they had their most recent Detroit Retro Game Con in November. I assume it's going to be probably a similar date in 2025. Representing the Detroit Retro Game Convention is Andy Duff. Welcome.
How you guys?
Let me hide this thing. There we go. We can all see you bigger.
Yeah, still working on a November date. There are a lot of conventions in the area to try and navigate, and you don't necessarily want to be on the same day as a major Comic-Con, which we have a lot of those here. So I'm trying to get that figured out. And some people are talking and some people are not talking. And the ones that aren't talking are the ones that I need to try and navigate around. So
yeah,
as soon as I get a date, I will certainly share that with the world. I just
you also have
be careful.
I hate it when I have to go plan stuff around so many different things.
I mean, there's like some kind of comic book show or Comic-Con almost every weekend now, it seems like. Whether it's just a little one at a Knights of Columbus Hall or Elks Lodge, or a really, really big one that's way bigger than me. And that's what I want to try and navigate around. Because, if there's a major Comic-Con with all these major guests coming in on the same day as mine, I'm in trouble.
Well, I do also have to note that Midwest Gaming Classic, I did find out that certain people will not be there this year. They were in previous years, and the Midway Moss, still having trouble talking. Hopefully, I don't start hacking up a lung. The Midway Monsters group that would consist of Paul Niemeyer, Brian Collin, some of the Mortal Kombat actors. They made the difficult decision to, they will not be at Midwest Gaming Classic this year. They made the difficult decision. They're going to go to a Game Con in Arizona this year.
Game On Expo.
Say again?
Game On Expo. It's another really, really big show.
And that's on the same day as Midwest Gaming Classic?
Yep.
Same weekend, yes.
Those are two really big shows that unfortunately are landing on the same weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But they were there last year, so got a very
Midwest. Really?
I think Midwest might be a little bit bigger, but they're going to be pretty close to the same. Game On has got a much it dips into a lot more of the anime and than Midwest does, but I mean, from my understanding, they both are up in like the 20,000 plus attendance.
All right, I'm bringing up the headset here.
So I just had Niemeyer and the brothers, and Brian Collin was supposed to come, and he had an incident where he couldn't make it. And I also had Tim Kitzrow, NBA Jam, and so they were great guests, especially Niemeyer.
Yep.
They are just excellent guests, and this was the first year that I had done any kind of celebrity guests, and I was really nervous about it because I had heard from other people that, they had nightmare stories about bringing voice actors and things like that, more along the lines of anime, that, they have these handlers, they have these unreasonable demands, and it made me really nervous. But these guys were great. The Cena brothers were just awesome. Everybody loved them because they stopped and talked to everybody. And I had a Mortal Kombat 2 there, and they played games with people and took pictures with people. They even signed my cabinet and put a COA on it. Just really great guys, and Niemeyer as well. and Kid Pro.
I've
So
had
They're all
I've had
they're all
Paul
from
out for a couple
Chicago.
of shows, and we love Paul. He's fantastic.
he sure is.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're at,
Oh, good.
that's a lot better on your side, man.
Yeah, because
Yeah, we get the pleasure of working with Paul on our next show in April. Second time we've ever had a guest, and he's actually going to come out to Athens for us. Yeah, very awesome to deal with in chat. Like, he's great. Just super cool dude in general.
What's up, Votary?
yes, I have an announcement about Video Game Rotary a little bit later. Well, maybe I can throw the thing up now if you want, because I got it in my slideshow. But that will go. We'll wait a little bit later on that one. He was asking what day is the roundtable. Yes, it's the same time in Thursday. It's a Thursday night. This episode is, yes. I typically, for those who are joining the podcast for the first time, I generally do my interview podcast on the Thursday nights. On rare occasions when the guest is only available on certain nights of the week and not available on Thursday, I will change it up. I kind of settled in on Thursday night to have a fan base know when to tune in each and every week. So anyway,
Good schedule.
yes. The Midway Monsters, yes, they're all coming from Chicago, and I run into them regularly. Niemeyer and Kits Row and the Pasilla brothers, John Parrish. I see them guys quite frequently. But then again, they make frequent stops at the Galvin Ghost Arcade and then show up at all the local game cons that are within driving distance of Chicago. So,
Yeah, Galloping Ghost is pretty much in their backyard, right?
yes, I'm going back up there. And, well, I'm one of their former Gamers of the Year. Yes. Well, let me ask you: have any of you been to Galvin Ghost?
I have, for sure.
Not.
And actually, I'm surprised that they're just now running out of room, because the last time I was there, which was about a year, maybe 18 months ago, it looked like they were already out of room. And they had put in some weird they had an imported Star Wars game. I think it's from somewhere from Europe, I think. And at that point, it looked like they were out of room already. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what his next move is, because you could barely walk through there. And that's the last time I was there. I mean, you have to get to your desired game. It's, he needs more room, and I don't know what he's going to do. I'm curious to, obviously you've got the line on what he's doing next.
It was announced on Monday, and well, they're not going to get a second and third floor built right away, so they're going to make some changes with the room they have, and they've got to, because right when you go in, there's a bunch of games in the entryway. Well, that was not what meant to be where the games should be placed, but hold on one. They were push came to shove, and they had to stick them somewhere. So,
and that's after he had built the pinball place down the road, and so
that was long after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been now 3 years, maybe 4 years that pinball place has been there, and it didn't have a lot of games in there. He had just moved all the pinball games out of the main building into that. And so I can only imagine he's got at least 100 games in the pinball now too, right?
About 45.
Okay.
So they were out of room when they
take up a lot of room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were out of room when they opened their final expansion, Canton, and then cut some space out of some rooms in the other buildings.
Right.
Well, let's get started. Let's go around the room. everybody's gaming history. We'll start with Tony. What got you into gaming, and what was the hook? Your first game.
So my first memory of playing a game is at my uncle's house. Was Pitfall on Atari. So that's kind of my first actual memory of actually playing a game. But I definitely say what got me hooked was the original NES. I mean, I've got some journals from elementary school talking about getting Nintendo for Christmas. Bad Dudes was my new favorite Nintendo game. I remember having the Power Glove as a kid, so that's definitely kind of what pulled me into gaming back then. Unfortunately, kind of got out of it for a while, but just fell back in love as an adult. I was like, I used to play games a lot, so finally just started looking and trying to find groups to join that had games, sold games. And then we wound up just creating our own Facebook page for buy, sell, and trading games. And that's kind of where that started. That's grown to like 4,500 people now, just all video games all the time for sale on that one. And then honestly, going to Austin show was kind of our hook into the convention side of it. Was like we wanted something like that in Georgia. And we didn't really know of any other shows at the time. And then we actually came across Southern Fried Gaming Expo in Atlanta as well, and realized they have a crazy show as well. And it's like, we want to do something like that here local in our town, college town, bunch of people coming in all the time. And that's where we're at, man. We're 8 shows deep so far in about 4 years.
Okay, Austin?
Earliest memory is probably playing Flintstones Rescue of Dino and Hoppy on the NES with my cousin. We thoroughly enjoyed the basketball stages where to steal the ball you had to run up and bump them with your butt. So it's a great game. Let's see. We are going into I guess I stayed into. I mean, I played video games. I grew up in the country. Everybody was like, "Well, how does a country kid grow up to be a gamer?" But in the country, and there's nothing to do after the sun goes down, you pretty much sit around and play video games. So yeah, played games up until college. When I was in college, a lot of Smash Brothers on the 64, and then fell out of gaming like Tony for quite a while. My mom called me up as an adult and was like, "Hey, I've got all these NES games. I'm going to throw away if you don't want them." And so I was like, "No, don't do that." And I had seen the Facebook posts where you could have a game that's check your childhood games. You could have one worth $1 million, whatever. And so went home, looked at all of my games, wound up having DuckTales Part 2 or Bubble Bobble Part 2 and DuckTales 2 on the NES, and was like, "Oh, these are worth a little money. That's kind of cool." I've always kind of liked collecting. When I was a kid, I collected stamps and collected coins and collected just stuff. And so it was like, this could be a really fun collection, a collection that I can actually play with. And eventually play with my kid and all that kind of stuff. So that's what kind of got me started into the collecting. And then I had seen YouTube videos of some of these bigger shows, like Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and I think the Jay from the Game Chasers had just recently started his Retro Palooza at the time when I saw that on YouTube, and was like, I'm jealous that all of these seem to be on the other side of the country. There's nothing over in the Carolinas areas, and so we decided we were going to try to. My wife, or I went to my wife and was like, "Look, I've got all these duplicates. I've started kind of connecting with a lot of the local collectors in the area, and it's like, let's just try to do like a little swap meet or something, a gaming shop and swap kind of, like Tony and his crew have started up, and we promoted it and got a little hotel ballroom, and we were just hoping to hit. We were hoping that we could get 300 people. If we could get 300 people, it would have paid for itself and covered some of our expenses, and we wound up with about 700 people that first year, and we were just thrilled, and it was fun, and ever since then we just kind of have tried to outdo ourselves every year. We try to bring something new and try to go bigger and bring something new to the show every single year. And we're going into our 9th year this year, and we're really excited. It's turned into a major undertaking, that's for sure.
So, how many years into it did you go to multiple days? Were you one day the first couple of 2-3 years, and then you went to multiple days?
Third year we went to multiple days. The first 2 years we were in a hotel ballroom. It was a 5,000 square foot facility, and at the end of the second year, the first year we had 700. The second year we had 1,400. And at that point we were really exploding out of the seams or whatever. So we found another location. It was not necessarily the greatest location, but it was 15,000 square feet. So it was a much larger space for us. And so we got a good deal on it. It was a Shriners Club that owned it, and so we got the larger space and went to a multiple day, and it was received with
mixed reactions.
Mixed reactions, yes. The attendees loved it. Some of the vendors loved it. Some of the local vendors who were not into like they weren't. I mean, there was a local shop that was not happy about it, and basically they've never come back, and they just didn't like the idea of leaving their games and stuff overnight. So they were willing to do the one-day shows, but were not willing to leave product overnight. And so but say that we sold out of our vendor spaces, and we wound up with around 1,800 that third year, and so it still had growth. But then we've been 2 years up until this coming year. This year will be our first year to be going to 3 days.
The people who are uncomfortable leaving their product overnight, well, I'm guessing this game shop has never done a con where they had to do more than 1 day.
Correct. They'd never done a con, period.
Okay.
Yeah, they had done my show the first 2 years, but outside of our shows, like we have a Comic-Con, but outside of that one Comic-Con and our show, there wasn't really any other local shows that tap into like that nerd geek kind of culture community. And so there really wasn't another show for him to do without traveling, and yeah, so it just after that he decided that I guess he just wasn't comfortable with it. But
so I mean, Greenville is a very large area, that my understanding, and so there wasn't really any large anime con or any large Comic-Con going on down there.
So Greenville is Greenville's got that, still has that small town. I say small town. It still has somewhat of a small city feel.
Sure.
The whole, like, it's a Greenville, Spartanburg, and Anderson. These three cities that kind of make up the market. And I would say the market size in total is only about 700,000. But that's all spread out throughout the entire upstate of South Carolina. So Greenville it's a beautiful town. I don't live there anymore, but when I did live there, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's kind of nestled down under in the valley of the mountain. I mean, the mountains are 30 minutes away, so I mean, you got beautiful mountain views, and it's just a very nice. It's a fairly well-to-do area as well. There's a lot of transplants have moved down to this area, so it's a nice area.
It's population is about 73,000, and it's right between Charlotte, Charlotte and Atlanta.
Yeah, when I say 700, I'm talking about the whole market size itself, not just the city population.
Yeah,
so it's
people within an hour distance.
Exactly. Yeah, within about an hour. So, but yeah, no, I mean it's we're 2 hours from Atlanta, 2 hours from Charlotte, and it's nice.
Yeah, we take the trip down and vend every year. It's definitely worth the ride. Always a beautiful ride up there too.
I mean, the shop owner who's not used to leaving stuff yeah, that is pretty much every vendor that does a game con that's multiple days has to put up with the risk. Now, obviously, a lot of these game cons that are one day have setup time the night before. So
yeah,
if you want to come in at 5 a.m. and set up everything, I mean, be my guest. But
well, it's so easy nowadays to have your own camera set up on your booth all night if you want. Like you can just get a Ring camera and hook it to the local Wi-Fi and watch your own booth. I mean, that's definitely something you can do as a vendor. So that's
a great
protect
idea.
your own stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, vendors typically they set up and then cover everything with blankets, and then there's security in the building. So
yeah, and
yeah,
most of the guys that I know, if they're sitting on like some of the stadium events or whatever, they're taking that with them. No. They're not leaving that there.
Can't leave it there.
And
exactly.
Honestly, if somebody were to swipe a $20 game, then I mean,
leave 70 copies of Madden there. That's fine. Might be doing you a favor.
Yeah.
My Galloping Ghost tugboat, one of them. I'm not going to leave it overnight. I'm going to take it with me back to the hotel. I'll leave all the other stuff there. But yes, the most valuable items that cannot be replaced, I'm going to keep it on me. Period. So, anyway, okay, so we go around the room with your beginnings. Any gaming feats that
I don't think we get. Andy didn't give us his beginnings.
Oh, you're
Come
right.
on with it, Andy.
Okay.
Let's go, Andy.
Okay, so Steve, you and I are about the same age. I think we are the same age. And so mine starts probably the same way yours does.
71 is when I started in the world.
Right, 72 for me. And so
child of the 80s.
Yep, when I was, I don't even remember, 77, 78, something like that. Somebody told me a guy down the road's got this thing hooked up to his TV, and you can make balls bouncing back and forth. And so I said, no way, I want to see that, So we went and played that. And then, when I was whatever age, I got an Atari for Christmas, which is like the highlight of my childhood. And so somewhere between Asteroids and Space Invaders, and that's what started me off. I spent hours playing that. And then, moved on to like Atari basketball and some other things. And Atari's what started it all. And then Atari kind of died off for a while, and people lost interest in it. And then the NES came out, and so I played the launch titles on the NES, like Super Mario Brothers, Excite Bike, that kind of stuff. And then as that kind of faded off, I spent a lot of time in arcades, like a lot of time in arcades. So I was an arcade collector myself. I still am. I've been doing it for a long, long time, buying and selling. I probably own just about every game that's in Galloping Coast at one point or another, at least the common ones and some of the uncommon ones as well. And so, that took me, through the 90s, and I had a Sega Genesis and a PlayStation 1. I just kind of progressed through. Sony was always my preference over Xbox. I never really cared for the controller for the Xbox. And so, anyways, I had been going to these gaming conventions for a long time, well over a decade. There's several in Ohio. And so I just kind of had this thing that, why don't we have one in Detroit? And so out of necessity, me and another guy started it. And he kind of, lost interest, didn't want to take it to the level that I did. And so we just finished up the 4th year, moving into the 5th year. We started in a very small Knights of Columbus. The first year, I think I did 300 people. The second year, it started to grow. It was somewhere in the 700s. And then the 3rd year, I moved to a larger Elks Lodge. I moved from 2,500 square feet to maybe 6,000 square feet, thinking, well, this is going to do it. And then I packed that place. And so now the facility that we're in now is 27,000 square feet. I went from maybe 10 or 12 vendors, which I was begging people to come and vent, literally almost on my hands and knees. Please just come and vent.
Yep.
And the first few guys, they were kind of, thinking it's a rummage sale. They were bringing all kinds of other weird stuff. And I had to really start cracking down on these guys. Tell them to, stick with the format. Okay, fine. You want to bring Pokemon cards. That kind of, okay, fine. And I even really expanded the name of the show from video game show to just gaming show, and said, okay, well, we're going to do pinball, we're going to do arcade, we're going to do trading cards as well. And so this last show with, the guests, Niemeyer and the Pacinas and Kitzrow, we did, 1,500 people.
Awesome.
With the amount of competition that we have, I'd say that's pretty good, because it's like I said earlier, there's something going on practically every weekend, and I have to navigate. There's always something I'm conflicting with. Oh, you did it the same weekend as Yamacon. You can't do that. Well, Yamacon is 3 days. I mean, really, you're going to sit down there at that con for 3 days, And so, now that is a major event. And really the thing was, this Yamacon, there's a guy in town, and this guy actually does the circuit on these Japanese video games. He'll bring you candy cabs, he'll bring you an F-Zero, he'll bring you a monkey ball, this kind of stuff. And he's been to some of these larger conventions. He's been to MGC. So I, want to have him, because I did a test. Last year I did this show twice. I did it in April and I did it in November, and I was really just trying to see what stuck, because originally I was going to do it in April 2020. We all know how that went. And so it was dragging and dragging of us trying to launch this thing. We finally did it in November 21. And so we stuck with November. And then this year with this new facility, I want to try it out. And doing it in April obviously gave me the opportunity to rent these video games that I had wanted to do for a long time, but it was always conflicting with that first weekend in November. So I rented the video games, and they seemed to be a big hit. And so I put that in my back pocket and said, okay, in 25, let's do this so we're not conflicting with that event. And let's get those video games in here, because it doesn't cost a ton of money. I mean, rentals cost, but I think that the takeaway is that bringing those in there, that amount of games, it was 13 games, between the F-Zero, the monkey ball, the candy cabs, all that kind of stuff. It was a good draw. So take that and couple it with some special guests, and I think we'll definitely break that 2,000 mark, maybe even higher. We certainly have the room now. The first year I was in this Knights of Columbus, and then I realized we needed a bigger place. And then when we moved to our bigger place, I packed that place too. So now we've got room to grow in this facility. I mean, there are other facilities that are really, really big that can handle the 10, 20,000, but they're very expensive, well over $10,000. So we're not that big yet, but we're too big for these little Knights of Columbus and Elks Lodges, which finding a venue in this town is getting very hard because those places are starting to die off now. Their membership is literally dying. There's Elks Lodges and VFW halls and all that kind of stuff that are literally going out of business. And so these little Comic Cons and things like that are trying to find new homes, just the little, 100 people cons or whatever. Go ahead.
What about school or college?
I looked at that. Some of them, the insurance requirements are really stringent. One of them wanted me to have a workman's comp policy. So as attractive as that is a good idea as that is, some of those, one major university was doing it and they stopped doing it because somebody had trashed the place for whatever reason. I think he was they did a pinball expo there and he literally went around and with a rod and poked the fluorescent lights out because they were too bright for him. And so they said, well, we're done with this stuff,
He should have been grabbed on.
One bad apple.
Grabbed him and then kicked him out, but get his information and have the venue owner sue his butt off for compensation for doing the repairs to the building, make him liable.
Yeah, well, I don't know how that. I just know that happened. I don't know what the was.
If I caught him doing it, there'd be hell because I'm not going to let him get away with it.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. And some of those places, yes, I've looked at universities and schools, and the vendor load and unload is not optimal by any means.
Yeah.
And so you got to give these guys
if they're big event centers right in the middle of campus where you can't drive.
Yeah, exactly.
I know there's also there's venues that have ballrooms or but I guess I don't know. Wrestling shows have to find a venue all the time, so maybe
we could do a whole podcast just on the venues in the Detroit area and the drama behind it, and the, the ones that have dried up and why and all that kind of stuff. And this side of town tore this one down to put up a Nards. I could go on and on. Anyways,
well, and Detroit is kind of out. I've never been to Detroit, and Detroit has its own. The city as a whole has its own problems, and that's
we're not
way outside the scope of this program.
We're not talking about Detroit proper, though. I would not play around in downtown Detroit at all. We're talking outer lying suburbs. If I go play in Detroit, I need to deal with Union Electric. I need to deal with, buying this person off, buying that person off. It's just,
oh gosh,
yeah. I could go on and on about that too. So no, it's the suburban. It's the greater Detroit area. So, ours is in Southfield, which is 10 miles from downtown. We did Livonia before that, maybe 18 miles from downtown. So, somebody actually did try, the second year I was in, somebody tried to do a gaming convention like mine. That we're going to do it better than you. We've got this sexy venue in the middle of the ghetto, one of those soccer domes where literally you walk 2 blocks and you're going to get robbed. Let's load up the family for the gaming convention, right? That just isn't going to happen. So that won 2 years and it was done. So, there was a lot of science behind this of finding the right place, finding a place where people want to take the family. It's, like I said, there's a science behind it. And, especially in this area, I mean, I could never get away with something in June, July, August. People in Michigan have cottages that they go up north. In northern Michigan, it's just impractical to have anything in after Memorial Day, before Labor Day, and then don't ever dare do something in September. People spend money sending their kids back to school, all that kind of stuff. Anybody that does a con in September doesn't know what they're doing, hasn't done their research. October can be tricky too. So, like I said, a whole science. And then in April in this town, there's comic book show every weekend, Comic Con,
And
anyways.
here in Athens, you really have to compete with the football season as well. Because here in Athens, with a college town, if there's a game anywhere close by Georgia, everybody's going out of town. So and even if it's a home game, if it's a Powder Puff game, Georgia versus Kansas State or something, like, people are going to be downtown all the time. They will not come out to do anything else.
Yep, so you've got that figured out too. I mean, there's some football stuff going on here, but not like Ohio State or something like that, where the entire town is just glued to the football stadium.
Although my town has a double whammy of, the kids are going back to school in September, but the Illinois State Fair happens, and everybody blew through their money in August. So anybody that tries to do anything in September doesn't really do all that great.
Yeah,
at least in my city.
No, that is true for a lot of people. September is just a bad time to do anything like that. So, like I said, anybody that launches something like that doesn't know what they're doing, has not done their research, has not had a real job. When I was 20-something years old, I worked in a car dealership, and in September, everything would die. I'm like, what? Nobody's car breaks down in September? They're like, well, yeah, it does. They just don't have the money to fix it, so they don't bring it in.
Still got eat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
something about us gamers and working in the automotive industry. I sell car parts for a living now. I work in a dealership.
Well,
Galloping Ghost has a garage, so they do have a car shop.
I know. He's got everything. He's got that. He's got the vinyl or whatever, the art shop or whatever next door. I mean,
reproductions.
Yeah.
The only thing they don't have is a restaurant and a wrestling promotion.
Well, wasn't there a restaurant
coming
across the street?
soon?
Didn't he buy that?
Yeah, but they didn't own it. It was.
Oh, I thought he bought that and then closed it down and made it something else. I haven't paid attention.
No, it's that the Tony's is still vacant. They moved. They got a new location, but the original building is still vacant. Now people are using the parking lot when parking runs out and periodically I'm forced to park in there because I don't want to park that far away. However, crossing Ogden Avenue is not a safe thing to do, and I don't like crossing Ogden Avenue on foot.
It's a busy street. I agree.
Yeah, well, any street in Chicago is busy. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, now let me ask this. Go around the room. Gaming feats. What is your personal gaming feat right now? This is my personal gaming feat, the Nintendo Campus Challenge National Championship.
Nice.
So we'll go around. Well, Andy, we'll let you go first.
I just can't keep up with what you got going on there. I don't have any.
Well, this is 30 some odd years ago, so you would have developed something. You had more than enough time.
I could show you my empty pockets of all the quarters I put away. I'll tell you what, one of my favorites, and I wish I still had it. I sold it years ago, but Cyberball.
Yeah.
That game was something else. I'll tell you, because it was two-sided. So, you had your one player side, you had your other player side, and a stranger in the arcade could walk up to you and challenge you, and you never knew the guy, and by the time you guys were done, you were best friends because you had a great time. I enjoyed that game. That's probably one of my favorites, if not my all-time favorite. And there was a lot of close games. There were games that I won and games that I lost, but in an arcade, that was probably one of the greatest games ever. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about it, but it was really cool. It was a take of the Jefferson's robot football, where your player overheats and then he blows up, and you got to buy another one, and that was a lot of fun.
Galloping Ghost has that game.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Among other things.
All right. Tony?
I don't know if it's a feat or just stupidity, but I put 1,800 hours into Conan Exiles in 1 year.
I know Conan the Barbarian. What system was that on? Is that like a live service game, or what are we doing?
Well, Conan Exiles it's on like PS4, PS5. It's kind of like a Rust style game. I don't know if you know Rust at all. You get on with a bunch of
The
people.
only thing I know about Rust
Yeah.
is Alec Baldwin accidentally shooting one of his stagehands or whatever and killing her.
I'm showing my age here, my young age. But no, it's just like a live service game, kind of survival. You have a clan, you build a base. People can come raid you and take all your stuff, and then you basically start over from ground zero. And we put a lot of hours into that game. A lot of hours.
I guess what it's kind of going at tournaments or tournaments you won or I don't know.
See, I have never really got into tournaments or anything like that. I'm not really that much of a competitive gamer, I guess you would say. More so just like I like the solo world, getting in something and just playing around for hours doing what I want to do versus like a narrative they give you.
Oh, okay. Austin?
I am horrible at all video games.
Really?
I play everything on easy mode. Story mode, easy mode. I am really bad at pretty much all of them. There's some that I enjoy more than others, but I don't typically beat a game because I get distracted and there's another shiny object over there to go get my attention. So yeah, and I'm just really not good at video games. I enjoy them, but I'm not good at them.
Okay, so there isn't a game that you like played all the way to the ending.
I mean, there's a handful, and honestly, most of them are more current gen stuff. If it's like retro, I mean, there's something to the whole NES hard. Like they're too hard for me. I beat Mario Brothers 3.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
Forever ago. But like, yeah, I enjoy playing, but I'm not competitive, and I'm pretty bad. I've got a 5-year-old that is starting to outplay me. So.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll ask you, go around the room. What is your favorite? We'll start with Tony.
Favorite game ever?
Favorite game, or at least the game that you usually play, typically gravitate towards. Not this. I know a favorite. Go ahead.
Sorry. Kind of having gaming ADD lately. I jump around between a lot of stuff. I'll put in 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there in different games. But if you're going to go favorite game of all times, I got to go Chrono Trigger just because that was one of the games that I played early that just really sunk in, and that RPG style with the time traveling, all the different endings you could get in the game. So the replay value for it, that game to me is probably my all-time favorite.
Andy?
Well, it's tough to say. Really, in the modern era, when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, that changed everything. As far as gameplay and length of game and actually going through an entire game and playing it all the way through, and then went into San Andreas and Vice City and Grand Theft Auto 5. Those games I really enjoy playing. So I would say partially that. The other part is strategy. I remember when SimCity came out, I got kicked out of a Best Buy because I spent the entire day in there playing it.
Oh, wow.
I had never seen anything like that before. It was on, I think it was on when Pentium first came out. It was on like a, Pentium 66 megahertz or something like that. And they just had it, and I just walked up to it. I went in there to get a CD or something. I really spent the whole day. I ended up buying it on Super Nintendo, and then Civilization came out, and I played that. So I'm somewhere between those two games, strategy games, and like I said, the Grand Theft Auto really changed a lot of things in PS2 world. So that's my compromise on saying a favorite. I would probably say those two genres are my gaming go-tos.
I do remember SimCity and Civilization, and I did play them back in the day. However, when it went 3D, it became for SimCity. I could not figure it out. It wasn't so fun because it's got the complication level just kind of shot up.
Talking like SimCity 4 or
Well,
SimCity
when it went 3D.
Okay. I think that's 4. SimCity 3000, I don't think that was 3D, at least not too much. I played a lot of that when that came out. Like SimCity 3000 and Roller Coaster Tycoon, I played those on the PC like to death.
Yeah. Austin?
Mine is a little skewed just because, like I said, I've got a 5-year-old, so it changes my perspective of what my favorite games are now. I do play a lot of Lego games, but I would say my favorite has been, he obviously wasn't in the room for these, but the new God of War games. And a lot of it is because the games are about a father and a son traversing these crazy worlds and the relationship that they build together and the story that goes behind all of that. And so, like I said, it hit a little harder with me having a 5-year-old that is coming into himself and becoming a little gamer as well. It's just been kind of fun.
God of War is kind of interesting. I didn't think that was a game that was really meant for a 5-year-old.
No, he was, like I said, he was not watching. He wasn't watching those the God of War games, but just because, like I said, these two most recent ones on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, it deviates from the old God of War game style gameplay, where the old ones were very hack and slash. These are very, very story narrative adventure style games, and it really does go into the story itself is very much about a father and a son. And so because of that, I like those games. But no, he was not allowed to sit there and watch the games. It's a little too much for him.
I know there was a bit of a fuss over God of War Ruark. That DEI consulting firm was, I guess, introducing stuff to the game that was kind of out of place, and people did notice, and then started. It's like, why is this in the game? What does this have to do with the story? This doesn't make any sense.
I don't recall any of that. It has been a while since I've played it, but I don't recall any of the that kind of stuff in it. But
okay.
It might have been. I'm not one to go on side quests, so
yeah.
If it was in a side quest, I probably missed it.
Okay.
Like I said, I rarely complete games, guys. If there are side quests, I do not do them.
Well, you may not be the greatest gamers in the world. Well, I never claimed to be either, but
you got a trophy though.
Yeah, we don't.
I know, and a few championship belts and a Gamer of the Year title to my name. But I will say that somewhere along the way that you got inspired to create a game con. So we'll start with Austin. Well, you got the biggest one. Maybe I better have you go last because you have the biggest one, I think, of the three, at least from the videos I watched. We'll start with Tony. You're the cut. I looked for video of your game con, and I think you're in your 8th year, although it's certainly
no 5th year. We've done 8 shows, so we were doing 2 shows a year.
Okay.
We've been doing 2 shows a year, kind of one towards the beginning and one towards the end.
Don't know how you guys do these 2 a year.
Oh, I'm not doing it anymore. That's a lot of work. No.
It's
Like I
it's
said,
it's a
we're
lot.
trying.
Well, we're a lot smaller, so it's a lot different. Like it's definitely not that kind of scale. I mean, we're just now getting to the point where we're like right at 100 vendor tables. So we're not on any kind of massive scale by any means. It's more still of that local, shop and swap community kind of vibe.
You said it's
So it's a little
biannual?
easier.
It's
We have been doing
biannual?
biannual. Yeah, we try to
Okay.
do one at the beginning of the year, and then we go hit Austin show and hit a couple other shows and promote for like one towards the end of the year. Like I think we're trying to set up for like a December show again, because we've done one of those about year before last, and it was really good. Everybody had a really good time, had a good turnout. So I think we're trying to set ourselves up kind of to do another show after everything's over.
So early December, like first week in December, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the last one we did was like December 15th, I believe.
So you don't have to worry about necessarily navigating snow down there. See, if I
True.
did
No,
we could get
not a
snowed
problem
out.
here. It's
Not in December.
A disaster for me.
Well, in
we
Michigan,
get our
yes,
snow like late January.
Yeah.
Central Illinois had a very unseasonably warm December. So yeah, we
The
had
Midwest in general, that's a gamble. That's a huge
yes.
gamble. Chicago and Michigan, Illinois and Michigan. You never know what you're going to get.
But yeah, Michigan was Georgia is pretty safe because it's in the southeastern portion of the United States. So
Definitely. It helps out a lot because we have vendors that come up from Florida, and then all the other states around us as well. So being decent weather, it's easy for people to travel and come up in December as well.
Does Dave Countryman do anything with you guys? Do you know who that is? Okay.
Doesn't ring a bell.
He's sold a lot of video games out of the Georgia area, Marietta, Georgia, actually. I don't know how far that is from you, but he actually supplied games for Stranger Things.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So if you ever run across him, great guy.
I will definitely keep an eye out. But we love networking. That's one of the best parts about this is really just meeting everybody, meeting all the people involved.
Yeah, you look up Dave's Arcade. I'm not sure if that website is still active, but he was selling games for a lot of years, and he knows how to fix them like nobody's business, especially modders. Which finding modders repair guys these days, those guys are gypsies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, luckily with the Southern Fried Gaming here in Atlanta, there's a lot of arcade guys around. So we do have a pretty good market for arcade and pinball stuff down here in Atlanta area.
Okay, Andy. So the Detroit. You wouldn't run December, but you're running in November, or at least.
Yeah,
it can snow in November in Michigan.
And it snowed in September before too.
But that's rare, isn't it?
Hasn't happened much in November either. Usually, around Thanksgiving time is when it starts to fly. But it's a risk. I'm not gonna lie. It could happen, and just deal with it.
And what motivated you to? I may not be the greatest gamer, but I want to do a game con.
Well, here's the deal. I like going to these game cons, and I really liked buying games and gelling with the vendors and all that kind of stuff. And so, like I said, I got tired of driving 2, 3, 4 hours to go to a gaming convention. Well, guess what? That's great. I brought one in my backyard, but I'm so busy running the show that I had absolutely no time to look at one table. Literally.
Yep.
That is a unique problem to have, yes.
Yeah, I go back and watch these videos. I'm like, they had a Sega Genesis case. I've needed one of those. Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorite things to do is to go back and watch the videos that are posted of our show because, like you said, I don't get a chance to actually see anything. So it's almost like you're running around with blinders on and putting out so many fires the entire weekend, and you're just kind of missing the show. So part of the fun is going back and watching watching other people have fun.
Yeah, like I said, that one is 2 years old. I could get you the one from last a couple months ago, which
I believe this was, it's 2024.
well, they put 2024, but it wasn't 2024.
Really?
Yeah, that's a typo. So if you look
Wow.
at the chat, yeah, we grew quite a bit from there. If you can pull up the one from the chat. So one of the things that I did from this one, obviously we added a lot more space. I added a lot more artists too, 3D print people, and I really had to be careful how I vetted those because I didn't want two guys selling the same thing. So I really had to look these people over and see what they had to make sure that they weren't overlapping with each other. So a couple of those guys sold out of their 3D print stuff. I had one guy that was doing 3D print, like little signs that you could plug in, stuff like that. Yeah, this was the first year. I added quite a few bit more of those. That's in the other video, anyways. And so that worked out very well. Just adding, artwork in general. And then the girl selling earrings and stuff like that, and she bracelets. She did well. And they all want to come back.
It always seems to be those little niche vendors. They always do decent at big shows like that because it's that something different.
Yeah, for sure. And they were a pleasure to have. And some of these video game vendors, you got to be careful with them. Number one, it's great that you have retailers that want to vend, even ones that are willing to do 2 days, which I haven't done 2 days yet, but I will soon. But if you have too many of them, it gets expensive. If you have people that are making a life out of flipping video games that they're buying at, see how much we grew? I mean, that nice 2 year ago facility was 5,600 square feet. This is 27,000 square feet. So I can stuff more vendors in there. But that's another thing. I don't want to stuff too many vendors in there, then they're not making money. So got to be careful. Got to balance it out. Got to have, can't have too many stores because the stores are going to mark up higher than somebody that's going to sell something on Marketplace. Go down to
the other problem is how many paying patrons can you get through the turnstiles? And Midwest Gaming Classic Saturday morning, there's a line all the way around the Bard Center. I could not believe it.
Yeah.
And I always get the VIP package.
Yep. I added the VIP package 2 years ago, and people just ate it up.
Yep.
Because they want to be in there first. They want to get those deals. And so, I just don't want to wait in line, and I want to be in there Friday night. That's my best vendor. This guy cleaned up. That's my best vendor there. Somebody that's got a bunch of stuff laying around. They want to get rid of. They want to sell it cheap. This guy made out when he bought that stuff, and he keeps posting videos. Oh, I fixed this Xbox. I fixed this. I fixed that. And so, keep a balance between stores. Then when you look at your private collectors, now you've got some private collectors where that's their livelihood. They're flipping stuff on eBay. They're flipping stuff on Marketplace. They're expensive. My best vendor is a guy that just wants to get rid of everything. Fine. You want to buy an Xbox for $5? Take it. Gets it out of my basement. Thank you for having this show because I got rid of all this crap. And then I got a bunch of strangers showing up at my house buying stuff or not showing up. So, like I said, our best vendors are always the ones that are private collectors that just want to get rid of everything. And that's what people coming back to the show. So like, I got deals. Mm-hmm. If I have 20 retailers in there and 20 flippers, I don't have a show, really, because it's just, why didn't I should have just went to the store. I should have bought it on eBay, and I tell these guys, you are not selling on eBay. The tax man is not coming after you. I'm encouraging these people to bring cash. I have to go to great lengths just to get ATMs in there. They're getting harder and harder to get. One of my ATM guys was doing Comic Cons too, and one of the Comic Cons on the weekend, he would go through $100,000 out of the ATM. Well, PNC canceled his account. They didn't want to deal with that much cash going out, so they just got tired of dealing with them. So it's getting harder and harder to find ATMs. The venues, I tell the venues every time, make sure that ATM is full. By 11 o'clock, it's going to be empty. And they never listen to me. Either they never listen to me or...
Keep growing.
Well, they're not transacting in Bitcoin yet.
Yeah. I don't know how that works.
Or PayPal.
PayPal, friends and family, yeah, but I've heard of people getting ripped off on friends and family too. Somebody can go home and decline the charges on friends and family. So
yeah, if they have a credit card linked to it, they can do it that way.
Yeah, so everybody wants cash. It was getting harder and harder to get because, and even my ATM guy that came in, who I was keeping track of the money that how much was going out because I was getting paid on each transaction, like $1 or something like that. He said, no problem. Those cassettes hold $20,000. Well, 11 o'clock, it was empty. I'm like, how much did you go through in 2 hours? He's like, 5,000. Shit. So the next time he filled it to 10,000. 10,000 ran out too. So then he had to come back and refill it again. So
they couldn't bring enough cash to the bit.
Couldn't bring enough.
You're going to be spending money. I mean, people aren't going to take checks.
Well, first of all, I don't think they were taking me seriously. Like, oh, yeah, you're not going to go through that much cash. But, I mean, look at all this stuff. I mean, some of that stuff is, bucks. Especially some of those rare, games, which, these guys bring not stadium events. I think somebody brought, what is that, Earthbound or whatever.
Yeah.
Field graded copy of Earthbound. I'm like, nobody's going to buy that. Come on. Nobody's going to come to a show with $800 or however much you want that. Somebody bought it. So I was wrong,
I've seen it.
Yeah.
We had
even at our little show, even at ours, I still seen it.
The most expensive game at my show that I am aware of that's sold at my show was $13,000.
Ah!
Yeah, it was a graded Super Nintendo game. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it sold for $13,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not a 1990 Nintendo World Championship cartridge.
No, it wasn't one of those. It was a sealed, graded. I want to say it was like a speed racer or something, but I don't think that was actually it.
My gosh.
Yeah, went for $13,000. Now it was another vendor that bought it, but yeah,
I was gonna say, if you want the best deals at these cons, that's what you got to be. You go be a vendor. That way, you get in the day before, go talk to people.
Oh yeah. The backdoor deals go on before it even starts.
Well, the early bird, the people who show up at GameCon Friday that are on the VIP package and preview night. I've snuck into the vendor hall while they're still setting up and looking around. Well, I kind of have to because it's too daggum big now, at least Midwest Gaming is. I have no idea what I even want to buy, if I'm going to buy anything at all, but I want to see what's out there, or at least some idea, because you get an hour before the rest of the public gets in, but you're not even going to get even a quarter way around the whole thing.
Yeah, and then on that 3D print stuff that went by, that's why you got to watch it, because the one kid had those switch holders that look like a plant, a piranha plant, like a Mario plant or whatever. That's a template out there somewhere on the internet that people are using to 3D print.
Oh yeah.
And so last thing in the world you want is two guys selling that. Now they're like, oh, I got mine cheaper. Mine's,
You mean decor? You're talking about decor, correct? Decorations.
Yeah. And this was actually the April show.
Well, I know I got.
There's the one. There's one of the video games.
I mean, when I'm talking decor, let me hide this for a minute.
That guy was Low Blast. That's local. He made his own NES cartridge.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, there's home brews.
Oh yeah, great when I got one in my backyard.
I know that
I think
It
he's
was-
been to FGC, and I know he's been to Torg and Korgs and all that kind of stuff. So
Midwest Gaming, as part of the VIP package, gives you a homebrew game,
okay, that's nice.
and you wear it in your lanyard. Let me pause this for a second. Bring this back over here. I mean, if you're talking the core,
Yeah, don't worry
the
about
core is what I'm talking about. Stuff like this, Hobby Lobby, and I mean, some of this is not everything's Hobby Lobby. Some of this I was bought at.
Oh no, I'm talking about the 3D print stuff. If you're
Okay.
going to 3D print something, there are templates on the internet that you can go download to just. You got the 3D printer. You don't have to design anything. You just print the template. And so when you do that,
free use files.
yeah, and if you get two guys in there with the same one, it gets a little ugly.
Well, there's also the people who create these pixel those beads where you
Perler bead
art. Gosh, I wish I knew what the term was.
Perler bead.
Okay, Perler beads. Yes, they make sprites, and these plastic beads run the iron over top, and then you could just hang video game characters on your wall or wherever you want to display them. There's a lot of that going on, and templates are everywhere.
Yeah, let me show you.
Okay. So you're gonna pull that up on you're gonna share your screen. I'll be ready to share. Here we go.
See it?
Yep.
Okay. So I got this girl that does like beaded stuff. Another one that does like buttons and coasters and things like that. This one does bling on stuff. But the one I was trying to say was, did it open up Nintendo products?
It's pretty much crafters.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It went to a different screen. But anyways, if you see these little piranha things, these piranha plants, yeah, that, like I said, that's a template. And so I could go buy a 3D printer, download the template, and print that out myself. So you don't want to get it. So I very carefully vet these guys. Like, okay, you sell giant cartridges. Well, then you're in because I don't have anybody else selling giant cartridges, right?
Replicas.
Yeah.
And they're probably 3D printed too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then some of the crafters, like I got somebody that makes, crochets animals.
And there's Paul Niemeyer.
There's
who
Paul.
Draws it. Yep.
Yeah.
Who draws Mortal Kombat art.
Among other
things. Much to the chagrin of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, he puts that big sign up, Warner Brothers has.
And we lost somebody.
Oh, I think Andy.
He's gone. He took a trip.
I guess
closed the wrong screen.
I was going to say, I think he was trying to unshare and then
clicked the wrong thing.
Oh well.
Although Paul Niemeyer has expressed interest in appearing on the podcast, I just have to. He's got to pick the day. I'm going to have him pick the day, and it may not be Thursday, but he's going to game cons a lot.
Yeah.
And almost every weekend. So I'm going to let him choose the date when it's convenient for him to appear. So.
Sorry about that.
All right, we come back.
I must have hit the wrong thing. Anyways, I think I
Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I think I did I answer the questions right?
I hope. Well, if you get out what you wanted to say, yes. And looks like there's somebody trying to crash the stream in Tony's room. Yeah, let's go ahead. If he wants on the podcast, go ahead and bring him in. It'll calm him down ultimately.
What are you doing?
Let's see this guy.
She's our three-legged pit bull.
3 legs.
Yeah, she had one of them taken off in a car accident. She got hit by a car, so we had to take one of her back legs off. So she's my little tripod.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Poor Pooch.
We got a 3-legged cat.
You're
Nice.
my gosh.
They have good balance.
They do, actually.
Wow. All right, so Austin, you're the biggest one of the 3. Tell me how you got your Southeast Game Exchange going,
Well,
or
it's
the inspiration.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of like everybody else. Saw I was a collector. Saw a lot of these other shows in other markets that were too far away. We started, I guess, technically 10 years ago. We're going into our 9th show, but that's because we missed a year for COVID. So yeah, we started 10 years ago, and there was a handful of them that were going on, but like I said, they were nowhere near us. So my wife was an event coordinator at the time, working for she had done weddings, and she had done like some corporate events for some realtors and things, and then I had a background in marketing and advertising and stuff like that. So we just kind of were like, let's put together a little, let's get all the collectors together and swap our duplicates, and then it kind of, we were running numbers. The thing that she wanted me to do was, she was like, I want you to create a business plan. And I'd been kind of an entrepreneur before as well, had started a couple of other businesses that never really took off or anything. But she was like, I want you to just create a business plan for it. And so I did all of the research, got all of figured out where we were going to have it and the pricing, and put it all together and presented it to her. And she was like, I'm on board. Let's do this. And my sister-in-law lived really, really close to us. And so she had she was more creative and had the ability to do a lot of the creative designing logo and things like that. And so we roped her into helping us. And like I said, started off in a small little ballroom. The first year it was around 3,000 square feet, because it was just the ballroom. The second year we added a bunch of panel rooms and the lobby, and it totaled about 5,000 square feet. Third year we moved to the Shriners Club, which was 15,000 square feet, and we went to 2 days. Then after that, we outgrew that immediately. Then the following year, we went to the following year we went to the larger convention center. We had a 50,000 square foot facility. We were there for 4 years, something like that. And then last year we moved to our current facility, which is 125,000 square feet. So we're 125,000 square feet. We're going into will be a 3-day show this year. We have a little over 240 vendors, I believe. Let's see. We have 2 full-time paid staffers. One that is it's just a creative director. He works on the graphics and design and all the art and stuff that goes into the marketing of the show. We are expecting around 7,000 to 8,000 attendance this year. Hopefully more. We've got some really, really cool guests that I think are going to really boost our attendance. So we're really excited about. And then I've got another guy who he's got a film background. So this year we're planning on doing a lot more video marketing, a lot more creative, doing a lot more creative things with that. And then this kind of has turned into, I'm not 100% there yet, but the goal is for running these events to become a full-time job for me as well. We now host 3 Comic Cons over in the West Tennessee, North Mississippi area. Those are in May, September, and November. And then we do Southeast Game Exchange in July. And that we're hoping that by the end of this year, I'll be able to do this as a full-time gig, and it'll be the 3 of us kind of running these from now on. But Southeast Game Exchange is definitely the one that takes the most time. The Comic Cons are a lot easier to run. Southeast Game Exchange, we put a lot more effort into it. One, because it was our first and it's kind of my baby. But we go a lot more into, we try to be a lot more innovative with what we do with the show, trying to always bring different new ideas, new things to the show. Our belief is that if we're going to charge an admission, I want there to be something outside of just coming and shopping. Because kind of like Andy was saying, like, if they're going to just buy stuff at retail price, they could just sit on their couch and get it off of Amazon or eBay. So we try to have a whole bunch of different things for people to do. And so if somebody did not actually spend $1 while they were there, they would still have a lot of fun, and there would be something for them to do all weekend long.
No, that's the way to do it. And you got a great selection. The arcade alone is great.
Our arcade it's still, I'm wanting the arcade to get bigger. Unfortunately, we just, in our area, while there are a lot of options, it's just pricey. Each truckload, and I'm negotiating pretty aggressively, but each truckload is like $5,000 to $6,000, and you only are able to get.
I think we got quoted $1,400 just for 6 cabinets, plus hotel room and travel. So I mean, it's definitely not the cheapest option.
No, I started buying games because now the amount that they want to run it now, just one game in 2 rentals, I own the thing. So why not just buy it?
Right.
Like the NBA Jam that I had that Kitsrow signed, I bought it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of the property of the show forever. I bought a Mortal Kombat 2, same thing.
We considered doing that, but we've gotten to a point where I don't have the staff to set all of that stuff up, and it's gotten so big that we've had to outsource pretty much most of the different things that we do, just because we're so busy just doing the basics.
I don't disagree with you, and I totally understand. And if I really had access to that stuff, I would probably be doing the same thing. Yeah. But rentals in this area are so expensive.
I can
I mean,
imagine.
I'm talking, to rent one NBA Jam, a guy wanted $850 and $250 to move it and set it up.
Wow.
And so, and that's what I have to deal with. Now, what you've got set up there, I saw a lot of great titles, and if you can get those, you can get 6 of those for $1,500. I'd be all over it myself. Yeah, because
like I said, the rates that we're working with are typically between that $5,000 and $6,000 for a truckload, and a truckload is going to have anywhere from 10 to 15 cabinets, depending on what type.
So I cannot do that here, unfortunately.
I will say that. Let me say that. Chime in here. I get myself a free vendor table at the Missouri Game Con because I have 2 bar tops with a arcade, multicade BCB, and typically Missouri Game Con hasn't had the room to bring in arcade cabinets, except for when they were running out of the Family Arena in St. Louis. So I bring the bar toppers to give the patrons some arcade action to play.
Mm-hmm.
They are for sale, however, but nobody buys them, so they just sit there all day. But everybody's playing them.
Bar top 16 ones.
Well, it's a Pandora's box, but I built them. Now that was before Amazon started selling the kit with the exact same cutout of the bar top. That was the template was online, so somebody decided, I'm going to take this template and do a commercial version of it.
Oh, it was
the exact same template
for a while. I mean, it's become mainstream.
Yes.
I agree.
And then arcade one-ups started showing up everywhere. And by the way, this goofball has crashed the stream as expected. This goofball who wreaked havoc this morning, knocked my web camera down.
So one-ups, there's a good and a bad to the one-up. The good is it gets the average consumer into owning an arcade game. People that normally would not own an arcade game, those people buy it. The bad is they're just not rugged enough to use for this kind of application.
Yeah.
No.
They're cheap for a reason.
Yeah. Yep. Like I would never put one.
Something else though that actually I want to start looking into for our show as well. I noticed Shannon at Southern Fried Gaming does a good bit of like you were talking about, Matt, where you can bring some couple of arcades and you get kind of like a free vendor spot or free weekend pass, something like that. Just for bringing that to the shows, and that's something that's actually a really good idea. Reaching out to a lot of local folks and hey, you want a free spot, bring us a couple arcades and set up and have a vendor table right there. Yeah.
And the problem with that is that used to be easy to do, especially for the arcade and the pinball shows. People would do that. They're willing to do that because it used to be your average cabinet was $500. Your average pinball game was $2,000. Now,
getting a lot more
thousands of dollars. I can't get a decent pinball machine for less than $5,000. I can't get a decent arcade game for less than $25,000.
Unless you had Stern Pinball there as a vendor, or maybe American Pinball or Jersey Jack.
That's great. You could do that in your backyard. That's why Shadell or what's his name, Pasek and all that, and Rob Burke and all that can do those shows because they have relationships with those people those are in their backyard. I don't have that luxury. Neither do these guys.
Well, you're in Detroit, so it's not a long drive for Stern to even.
Gary Stern laughed at me. Laughed in my
Really?
Face. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, once you get big enough, you're almost there.
That's the trick. That's the trick.
There wasn't enough money in the world to get Gary Stern to load a truck to bring it here. It's just not going to happen. At least not as long as he's running the show. Now,
Jersey Jack, American Pinball, Dutch.
You know who Troy Smith is?
Yes, I know who. Yes, he's over in Decatur.
Yeah. What is it? Tilt Amusements. Yeah, I've been working
Yes,
on
I've been to his place.
Yeah, and so I've been to that in Southern Illinois. That it's like whenever an operator goes out of business, he goes and buys them out. And so I've literally been in his warehouse, climbing on top of his cabinets.
I've been in there, yes, when he has his open houses periodically. I've tried to get him on this podcast, but so far I haven't been able to get him yet. So maybe down the road, but maybe I have to get in his ear some more. I don't know. Maybe show up at his next open house, and that's really the only time I get a good opportunity to play pinball without having to wait in a line.
Yeah.
Let's see, where are we at?
You guys have some good places up there. You've got Logan.
Yes.
And there's
Underground Retrocade.
Yeah, and there's another one around the corner from there, but the games aren't well maintained. At least Logan, they keep on top of them.
The Imperium.
Yep.
That's another one, and the Goblin Ghost, of course, and now the new Headless Horseman.
Okay, I haven't seen that one yet.
It just opened. When
Doc Mack had pinball games in the original Galloping Ghost, they were so beat up. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Play. So I hope that somebody is curating them now in this other location, because I didn't go to the original Galloping Ghost to play pinball at all.
The pinballs are in another building, so if there's issues with the pins, there's somebody to get on them. Especially because they have a couple of 1-in-1s. The Predator prototype, I believe they have an Aliens prototype. They have a couple other pins that are extremely rare, like Spirit.
Spirit's not that rare. People say it is. It's not that rare.
It's not common. They do have the Joust dual pinball.
Yeah.
And then Caveman, Gray and the Gators. Now Baby Pack's a little more common. Varcon, they have a Varcon, and there's only like 80 of them ever been created.
So we've got one of the not the biggest now. Rob Burke has surpassed, but Clay Harrell over in Ann Arbor's got the Ann Arbor Pinball Museum. He's got Larry DeMar's Varcon, actually, which is kind of funny. He's got a Joust, he's got a Granny and the Gators, he's got a Baby Pack, he's got an Alien, he's got the original Predator, because Skit B was in our backyard. And people want to know where he lives, but
so there's two.
Yes.
So the Predator at Galloping Ghost Pinball is not of the 1-in-1, it's one of two.
One of two.
Wow.
That one was finished, though. The one that we have here was not finished, and so he turned that into something called Jungle King or Jungle Hunt or something like that, and used a P-Rock board to reprogram it. So the one that Doc Mack has is probably the finished one.
Okay. All right. So you're all in different parts of the country. Michigan, Georgia, South Carolina. What are some of the arcades and game shops in your area that you like frequently? Frequent! Man, I can't even talk now.
So
you like to go there often.
You want to wrap up the Midwest? Because we've talked about half of them already, right?
Well, the Midwest is, Midwest is going to be around. We're early in the year, so.
Yeah, you've got the best ones, really. Between Galloping Ghost and Logan and these other ones that you talked about, it doesn't hurt that those pinball manufacturers are in your backyard, right?
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, well, Jersey Jack is not, and
although they got a factory in Chicago now.
Do they?
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't been there yet.
Okay, I didn't even know about that.
That's been the last year or two.
An American there too?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So You've got those. We've got the Ann Arbor Pinball Museum. He's got 550 games.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
That's pretty big.
Yeah, that's a lot. And they're all unique counts. He didn't have any duplicates. We've got Sparks Pinball Museum, which also has video games too. We had Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum that just closed last week to move to a new location. Now that stuff goes back pre-war. He had some modern pinballs and modern redemption, but he had a lot of old vending equipment that goes back to 100 years. And so the company that owns that mall decided they want to tear it down and build a grocery store. So he got forced to move. He had been there since 1990, and before that he was in a mall, and the enclosed mall had all the machines scattered throughout the corridor of the mall, and then that mall folded up and then he moved in there. So now he's got to move again. Now this is now second generation. The original owner, Marvin himself, died about 6 years ago. His kid took it over, but that was, and probably hopefully will be, another destination, tourist destination, because he would do hundreds of people a day, unlike the Vegas Museum that does 10,000 people a day.
Right.
It's was something to see, and hopefully it gets resurrected. We got Sparks Pinball Museum. Like I said, he's got 2 locations, one in a mall, one in a bowling alley, his own private collection. Mostly pinball, but he's got a lot of video games. Other than that, Michigan, there's one downtown, Off-World Arcade. And that's the guy that actually curates this Psychic Drive that does these Japanese games. And I think in Greenville, you guys had Psychic Drive as well. It looks like I saw the Monkey Ball. And I'm not sure if that came from somewhere else or if that came from him.
I did see that.
I know he goes throughout the country with those games. He just happens to be in my backyard. But, if you want Candy Cabs, if you want Blast Cities, if you want a Monkey Ball, an F-Zero, these music games, the Chulix and all that kind of stuff, that's the guy. So he's got something downtown Detroit called Off-World. And that's really about it. There's also a place called the Arcade in Brighton, but this guy, every time somebody comes in and offers him a bunch of money for a game, he sells it. So at one point he had every Williams game, he had every other game, between Gorf and Spy Hunter and all that kind of stuff, Disatron. Somebody would come in and offer him money, he'd sell it. So, which, good for him. Yeah.
All right, Austin. Oh,
Doc Mack wouldn't do that. Anyways, yeah, Michigan, that's about it.
All right, Austin.
I mean, in our area, we don't have a lot. I know that I work with Carolina Arcade Museum. They're on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. I think they're actually in North Carolina. It's a little city called Forest City. They provide most of my just retro Mario Brothers arcade, Donkey Kong cabinets, Popeye cabinet, those kind of just retro style cabinets. There's another one in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is only about 30-45 minutes from us. They have I get a few pinballs from them. But those are really the only 2 that are kind of local to our area, and both of them only have about 60 total arcades and pinballs combined, 60, 65, something like that. So they're not huge shops. And then I have to wind up getting this year we're probably going to get some from a guy that's, I want to say, no, he's like 3 or 4 hours out. But he's got a shop that is farther closer to the coast of South Carolina. And then we have used another person that's fairly local that goes to conventions. He provides a lot of the Japanese cabinets and the dance and rhythm games and stuff. And he's relatively local as well. So thankfully, there's enough local guys that I can get that we're not having to spend an arm and a leg on travel. But no, what Tony was saying that Southern Fried does, we are planning on trying to implement something like that this year, where we give people a free ticket or a free VIP pass. And we're actually kicking around the idea and seeing that some shows will even just straight up pay for people to bring their cabinet or whatever. Because if I can get more a little bit cheaper than what I'm getting from these contractors, then it kind of makes sense to just throw somebody a $50 and a VIP pass for them to bring whatever. Now, obviously, we're going to go through the whole. We're creating an application process so that we're not going to have multiples of the same thing, and we do have to. We are limited on that space problem again. We have the ability to expand in where we're at now, but it is quite a bit more expensive because the next expansion will take us from 125,000 to 250,000, I believe.
Wow.
And that we're not ready to make that. I believe that's Midwest size, and we're not, or Midwest Gaming Classic size, and we don't have the attendance to support something like that. Because what Andy was saying earlier was it is a science, a balancing act as to you don't want to have too many vendors and not enough attendees so that your vendors aren't making money. So you want to grow at a healthy rate so that your vendors are still profitable, making money, and your attendees are, but yet your attendees are still taken care of.
Yeah, I've heard some failure stories where people have expanded their square footage and expanded their vendor count, but didn't increase their foot traffic.
And that's not what we want to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absorb your 3 days now and see how that goes for a year or two, right? Yeah.
Yep. Cool. You're going to see how that goes. Like I said, we're doing some things to hopefully. I mean, we're putting more money into marketing than we've ever done before, and then.
What are your primary marketing, and what do you feel is your best bang for your buck? I mean, I've done a lot of social. Yep. I have, this year I may look at like movie theaters and stuff like that.
So we've tried most of the traditional forms of marketing. So your TV and your radio and your billboards, and we've put ads in publications. We've done all kinds of different things. We've tried. I feel like we've tried most of it. I have not tried movie theaters yet. We actually are talking with a company that places in movie theaters, but it's not just movie theaters that they're placing them. They're also placing them in other strategic locations as well. So I don't know if you're going to do that.
I'm talking about physical media. I'm talking about, when you walk in the theater, the first, before the movie starts.
Yep.
Slideshow.
Yeah. Well, apparently this is a digital company that does place like digital ads on run them as like before the previews or whatever.
Yeah.
They also do other things. So we're looking into that. I'm not necessarily sold. What I have found to be the most successful is billboards and social media. You can put it is amazing if you take $1,000 and put it into social media, you can get a large following. And
that's been the majority of what I've done.
It is the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I do feel the billboards, we've started doing more and more billboards, and I can't, obviously, it's hard to, it's kind of like radio or TV. It's really hard to determine if it's working or not. I can tell you, ever since we started doing billboards, we have seen a lot bigger growth.
Okay.
There's a mixture of electronic and traditional. They wallpaper the board.
Yeah.
I will say that I tried the digital billboards that rotate, and then we've also done actual static billboards. I don't like the digital rotating billboards. If I do billboards now, they are all static. I have billboards that go up 1 month before. I only pay for 1 month of billboards, and we do 30 days out from the show. Billboards go up, and we kind of splatter them all throughout the city. I say all throughout. I'm trying to get
high traffic areas, right?
High traffic areas.
Places that people are going to get stuck in traffic, right? Where they have no choice but to look,
Yeah. I can say last year, I think we had 6 or 7 billboards. This year, we're going to try to have 10. And then
we called around last year about some billboards, and all the ones around us, unfortunately, you have to pay for the full year. They want you to buy a full year, and it's like $1,200 a month for a full year. And we're like, okay.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's crazy.
No, we've got a lot more of the digital billboards.
Especially now in the era of
the digital ones
where they chase every 90 seconds, sometimes even I have some that chase every 20 seconds. And
you might want to check if do y'all have Lamar?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen some of those, yeah.
If you've got Lamar, Lamar has a couple of different types of options. They've got billboards, but then they also have what they call posters. And posters, I don't know why they call them posters. They're basically just a little bit smaller billboards.
Okay.
But I mean, for most people who aren't in the billboard industry, they look like normal billboards, but you just don't notice that they're just maybe a tad bit smaller than the super long rectangular ones. They, I guess, are a little more.
We have smaller size billboards, and they're not even close to all the others. Size.
And a lot of times they're called posters, and those tend to have a lot more availability, and they're also cheaper. So whereas a billboard could be $1,200, well, in certain areas could be $1,200 for 1 month or whatever, $1,500 for a month. Some of these posters you can get for like $400 or $500, and becomes a lot more affordable.
I just look at radio and TV, and I'm just wondering, radio, who under 50 is listening to radio and watching TV? And
nobody, unless you're running on Spotify or Pandora or one of those streaming services.
How about the ads on Angry Birds gaming apps on your smartphone?
That's
true. They run a lot on there.
See, Paramount Plus is making it very attractive to advertise there. I almost did it. I just didn't get around to making the creative part of it. But next time, I probably will do it if they have programming that people are watching.
Yeah. Well, the way we kind of, I guess the way we kind of determined the success of it is for a few years we were kind of surveying a lot of our attendance, and we were finding that about 60% of our attendance was coming from out of market. So it was all traveling into market from just people who were fans of different YouTubers or whatever. And then, so we really have, over the last couple of years, tried to figure out the best way to reach the in-market people, because those are going to be the easiest people to get to your show because they don't have
Mm-hmm.
to travel. They just wake up and come. And so, like I said, we tried radio, did not see an increase in our local attendance. We tried TV, didn't see an increase. When we went to the billboards, we have seen a noticeable increase in our local attendance. Now, again, some of that
they can't be escaped, right?
Yeah, some of that
TV, radio
could be word of
is
mouth.
not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did not see a success in TV or radio.
Local TV. I myself was on local TV.
Yeah.
Being interviewed for this, and literally, it did nothing.
Yeah.
And all
Unfortunately,
people called the hall. 2 people called the hall. One of them was like old enough to be my great grandfather. Yes, I have this old Atari in my basement. How much would you give me for it?
Well, and see, that's actually something you can look into to do for, bringing in that kind of stuff to the event. Like if you run ads in the paper, hey, do you have old games around? Bring them out to our show, sell them to our vendors. That's also a way to kind of drive, because the old people do look at that stuff and they do have that stuff in their basement still, So it's like, It is, if it's cost effective to run a cheap ad, hey, if you've got old games laying around, bring them out this weekend.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Newspapers, I don't think people don't look at newspapers. At least
that's what I'm saying.
The physical
your older crowd still does.
And the older crowd has got stuff in the basement that has not been tapped yet.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chris, by the way. That's my friend up in the chat.
Yeah. Now, one of my video games, some lady brought in an RCA, one of those analog players with 100 movies that worked.
Mm-hmm.
What are those? CHDs or whatever? I'm like, that thing hasn't been used in 40 years. That still worked. Had 100 movies.
Nice.
Yeah.
We do a lot of guerrilla marketing also.
Nobody can run from them. Local TV is dead.
So here's another tip.
Somebody brought up the Roku. That's a good idea too. Yeah.
On Facebook Marketplace, we usually start maybe like a month before the show, and I'll put up like a picture of some games that I have around the house as the first picture, like the Catch Me picture, and then down in the description it talks about the event, the dates, and everything. If you like games, come out. So that's kind of a little way to sneak in some ad space on Facebook Marketplace without having to pay up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. But SiriusXM was supposed to be ad free, right? That's why you pay for it. There's no commercials.
Certain.
But yet
channels.
It had commercials because they bait you to other channels. So it's false advertising.
News channels have advertising. Sports channels have advertising. It's the music channels that do not have ads.
But
ad breaks. Well, some of them. Well, I have a SiriusXM. It's basically anything that's news or talk has ads.
Yeah, I was starting ads. That's right.
Yes. I was going to make the point that cord cutters made TV advertising less effective because I don't have cable anymore myself. I just have internet access. Yeah, I just have internet access through my.
Well, I've got a cottage. I put an antenna on the roof.
Yes.
That's cord cutting without really.
There you go.
Because you're cord cutting. You are cord cutting, but
I do have radio, but I also have Sirius, I do pay a monthly fee to use, so I'm going to use Sirius because I'm paying for it.
Right.
Terrestrial radio, not so much.
But again, it's not targeted advertising. You're going to advertise to the entire country that you've got a little game show in Detroit.
Yeah.
Now the newspapers.
Flyers? I mean, have y'all run flyers much at all? Hand them out local, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's
flyering is flyering.
Guerrilla marketing is still probably next to your social media marketing is one of the best.
Well, again,
If you
that's
can-
another good
if you
I
reason.
think
to have
that's probably
at
one of our
least a good
biggest
balance.
expenses right now.
If you can partner up with some of your local shops, thankfully I've developed some really, really good relationships with some of our local shops, and they've gotten to the point where they'll put a flyer in every single bag that goes out the door. So
Yeah, if they're vending there, they have an incentive to.
exactly, and they're vending there, and a lot of them, and actually now that I think of it, all of them sponsor as well. So they're all very invested in the growth of the show, and
for the most part, they really don't care if their competitor is on there. For the most part, So if I have flyers and they have 7 different stores on there, they're mostly cool about it. A good business person has the feeling and the attitude that there's enough business to go around for everybody.
Yeah. Now we have
Definitely,
not.
and that's.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one thing around here. It's more of a community thing. Like we do have a good handful of like retro stores, all within probably 30, 45 minutes of each other. But we they literally send each other to people, people to each other's stores, and it's like, hey, I don't have this, but if you go over here to Commerce, they've got it. So it's more of that community based feel versus like a competitive vibe. And a lot of our vendors that come out, they do have the stores around here. There are a lot of local resellers, same kind of thing, So, and we are all actually in a big giant vendor group chat together. So we're always talking like all year long back and forth with each other and helping each other out. Hey, there's a deal over here. I can't get it. If you want it, go get it. So building that community really helps a lot too. So it's not that like, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah. Those are the people that I want, and the people that are getting catty, I just don't invite them back.
Mm-hmm. Right,
I was-
exactly. Yeah, and you always have that handful that always have a bad time. They never sell enough stuff. And my 2 main questions is, are you talking to your people that walk in your booth, and are you making deals for people? If you're not doing that, then I don't think you're doing your job as a vendor.
The ones that trash talk the other stores are the ones I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got a good balance of sponsors there. I had a lot of sponsors. This got very big in a very short amount of time. So
Nice.
I will say that
Trash talk. That's usually in the wrestling business, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. The next thing is these influencers or content creators. Last couple of years, I got hoodwinked by some of these guys with their trash talking of each other and their drama and their BS. So I'm really, really careful about content creators.
Now, who are these content creators?
Well, yeah, when I started this, I thought, well, that it would be good for the show and it'd be good for their channel. Well, promote the show. Don't just, I'm not a click factory. And some of these guys have treated me like a click factory. I've advertised them on my webpage. Hey, this person's coming out, and they did not reciprocate. So,
I mean, if you're gonna have content creators, they're usually going to be on a panel to talk about, I guess, their
so panels has not come up. I have not had the opportunity to do that yet, and sooner or later I will. But I've been to a lot of shows, and panels don't bring an army of people to see them.
Well, I'll say this. I don't usually get to the panels because I'm running around the game con and participating in the tournaments or going to play games or look for.
You're not the only one. So when I look at these, and actually we just showed a video, I think it was Southwest, or it might have been Southwest, where he had a panel. He had 30 chairs and probably 10 of them were occupied.
I will say I have been on a panel myself. The former Nintendo champions years ago.
Let's see the trophy.
You want you want to pull the trophy out again? All right, I'll pull the trophy out.
There it is.
And I'll let me solo this thing. There it is.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So was this your panel? You just kind of walked around and held it up?
I do not take this thing around. This stays in my house. Not. This does not leave the house. At a certain point, it's got to go in the gaming museum. When I at a certain point in time, just so it is preserved. My family is not necessarily gamers. I kept all the Nintendo Campus Challenge material that I have, most of it. So that's gonna go in. That's gonna end up in the gaming museums at some point in the future. I don't want that. I mean, preservation is important.
Yeah, I mean, panels. It's hard to. That's probably why I haven't done them real yet. It's hard to say what's going to work and what isn't going to work.
Well,
I mean,
the other portion is the people you're having the panel with. Are they going to make it?
Right. Exactly.
And I went down to Dallas, Texas for the Let's Play Gaming Expo that was put on by Christian Dithering. This was going to be my opportunity to meet Thor Ackerland for the first time ever. The person that I'm in the shadow of, because he was the 90. He got all the attention. I didn't get as much attention as he did.
Well, you got to bring the cup.
What?
You got to bring that cup with you.
That's the attention getter.
Yeah.
Well, Thor sold his trophy. Did you know that?
Yeah. Really? I did hear about that, actually.
And he had to because his wife was battling a serious illness. Unfortunately, she did not. She succumbed to that, what she was dealing with at a certain point. So she, sadly passed away. Melody. So he sold the trophy to auctioned it off to raise money to cover her medical bills or cover medical expenses. Sad, but I wanted to meet Thor. I still haven't. Maybe somewhere down the line. Maybe I've got to go back to Texas and try to track him down.
I was gonna say he doesn't really go out to stuff very often, does he?
No, but I would at least assume places locally into the Dallas metro area. I would at least think he would come out. Now I tried to get him on this podcast. He hasn't responded, and I don't know if he will. I don't think he's interested, but
I can definitely say a lot of people we've reached out to. We've got a lot more no's than yeses.
Although it's hard for me to go traveling around the country because, yes, I have the cat that crashed the stream. Well, I also have a 17-year-old who's on antithyroid medication and needs it every day. And I've skipped days, so I'm going to stick to the Midwest. But the Dallas, Texas trip was in 2018, and that was something completely new for me. I haven't done that since, though.
Now, is Brett Weiss there? I mean, that's practically his, stomping ground.
I don't remember, but it's, let's see, it's 2025. So, it's like 6.5 years ago. And I got my timeline wrong. I thought it was in 2019. Oh, well. Let me go to the next question. We've crossed the 2-hour mark already.
Fun.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, we kind of went through some of the other stuff I had written down. Well, I'll ask you this. Talked about getting vendors, guests, volunteers. Well, not volunteers, but managing the growth of the con. There's also crossover from outside of gaming. I know I saw a wrestling ring at Southeast Game Exchange, which I'm trying to get away from the wrestling stuff, but that's not working.
So for us, when it came to the wrestling, we purposefully wanted to, like, we knew that wrestling happened at a lot of Comic-Cons and stuff. And we didn't want to just have wrestling. We wanted it to fit the gaming theme, so we were able to work with a local wrestling group and convinced them to do Smash Brothers in real life. And so all of the wrestlers dressed up as different Smash Brothers characters.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
That
Yeah, no, it was
Bloomington.
wild. It was good. It was really good.
It's become one of the favorite, I guess, attractions. And now that we get them to do it every single year. And you'll have Donkey Kong and wrestling Kirby, and the first year they did Kirby, the guy had it was a inflatable Kirby that he was in. Well, apparently they hadn't tested getting into the ring while in the costume, and it was hilarious just watching the Kirby try to get into the ring.
Should have jumped over the top rope.
He couldn't. Kirby's arms are too small to even grab the ropes, so it was just kind of bouncing off of the ropes trying to get in. It was funny. It has become a favorite of the show. But yeah, we try to do things that that work well at other industries, but we try to put our own gaming spin on them, and that's what we did with wrestling.
I will say,
I'd like to throw in a little bit on the wrestling, if you don't mind, real quick. That's also a science of figuring out when you want to do the wrestling, because I think I remember the first year that you did it, it was actually like there was probably 3 hours left in the show when the wrestling thing was going on, and literally the entire attendee crowd in the show went right back to the wrestling ring. So we're all standing around for like the last couple hours, like, where the hell is everybody at? Oh, they're over there watching the Smash tournament in real life.
So, yeah, we've gotten to the point where it is the very, very, very last hour of the last day is when we do the wrestling, because of that very reason. We don't want it to suck the people away from the vendor hall.
And Sunday is usually your slowest day, right?
Sunday is typically the slowest day, and by the last hour,
that's the vendor trade day too.
Yeah, a lot of vendors are starting to. They're looking at. They've been there for 2 days. They're ready to get home to their bed. So some of them are even starting to pack up.
Well, they don't want to take home as much either. So they start making deals with the other vendors.
There's every year there's vendors that sell out their entire booths to other vendors and stuff. That happens every year.
Bloomington Illinois Game Con in Bloomington, Illinois has been doing Smash the last couple of years. Iron Spirit is hosting the wrestling portion. Wrestling is coming back to Midwest Gaming Classic. Hornswoggle is going to be there.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Well, he was there in the previous year. There was, I guess, a Royal Rumble tournament during the after-hour party. I could not beat Hornswoggle.
Yes, though, how did you talk these people into doing that? Because there are some exotic wrestling matches around here where the people get out weed whackers and stuff like that. They start doing this ridiculous stuff.
I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I got an idea. Want to see if you guys are into it." Thankfully, the guy was, he's a younger promoter, and was like, "Yeah, I think most of my guys would be down for doing that." And then
because they're already in some kind of costume, anyways, right? Just for the theatrics.
Yeah, and so exactly, and so. So they hammed it up, and it was they were coming out, and the guy who was doing Link was rolling around like Link does in the Zelda games, and the guy who they were really getting into character. They had the guy, the referee was dressed up like the hand from Smash Brothers, so he was just this. He was dressed in all white and had a white glove that he just kind of stood over everybody and was it was absolutely ridiculous, but it's so many.
That's very entertaining.
That's what
And
made
I
it
think-
good, though. That's what made it good. They didn't
Yeah.
take it serious, you know. I mean, they took it serious enough to where it's like, you know, like he was saying, they did the character moves from the games and stuff in the actual
Mhm.
ring, but it
But
was
it's silly.
it was
Yeah.
enough comedy to where you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like Wario, like jumped and sat on somebody's face, like he did those kind of moves where he was just being like Spartan and gross or whatever, the Wario kind of stuff, and man, it was just it was nuts.
No, I think wrestling in general has a place in this, video game convention as it is, because I have toy vendors and stuff like that where I encourage them to bring wrestling memorabilia. I've even sought out people that have wrestling memorabilia because there's definitely, and I've got a store that I finally found that he's video games and wrestling memorabilia exclusively.
Well, the demographic is, I mean, it's the same demographic.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that there's a good crossover there.
And I heard a story about one of these cons. I forget what it was. The last where there was a WrestleMania or some kind of wrestling match going on the same day, and the vendor hall cleared out because everybody went upstairs to their rooms to watch the match.
I will say this: there's a lot of former wrestlers that crossed over in the gaming world. Paul Tessie was a former wrestler. He's now the record holder on my tournament cartridge. Xavier Woods has Up, Up, Down, Down, the podcast. He showed up at the Galvin Ghost and won its hardcore title. But he only played against casual players. He has not played any of the former Gamers of the Year. Guess what? I want to play against Xavier Woods in a best of 7. Is he really that good of a gamer? Can he play? Can he stand up to one of the pros at Galvin Ghost and defeat him? I want to be the man to step up and face Xavier Woods as one of the elites and see how good he really is. No, I'm not going to fight him in a ring because I have no chance. I'm not a fighter anyway. I'm too old for that. If I take a bump, I'm going to be
up on the joystick.
Seriously injure myself, and I've done stupid stuff that I shouldn't have done. Just in a ring, I have done dumb things on wrestling shows. Well, not wrestling shows, but training facility. Did something stupid and really hurt myself. Wrecked my shin bone just trying to do a dive onto a crash pad and didn't make it. And doggone, it hurt like hell. I had to go to prompt care the next day because touching a hair on the shin hurt like hell. Literally.
Getting old sucks.
I'm the youngest one here, and I'm still feeling that.
How old are you, Tony?
I'm 40. I'm not that much younger.
The youngest one, then.
Oh, no way. Damn. Now I feel bad because I thought you were older.
Well, I feel old. No, I'm 38.
Okay.
38.
How about that? I'm in the middle.
Austin's the youngest.
Yep.
All right. How many years have Southeast Game Exchange been going?
Like I said, we started 10 years ago.
Okay.
So this will be our 9th year because of the missing COVID year.
So 9th convention.
That 1 year we all forget about.
Yeah.
Ironically, Midwest Gaming Classic did 2 cons 6 months apart 1 year. So I went to both.
Conflicted with one of my shows because I didn't see it coming. I didn't know they were going to do 2. And that's a problem locally now. One of my Comic Cons is doing 2 a year, and I'm trying to navigate around their fall show. So
I don't know how
both cons were completely different.
Well, they were trying to play catch up after not having one in the year of COVID. They did that.
Yeah, but they both had the stuff they had at the Midwest Gaming was completely different between the two. So it was fresh.
In what way was it different? Different vendors or different
vendors, different setup, different attractions. I mean, people
Same
were there
venue?
one con. Yes, same venue. People were there at one con, weren't at the next one. So, and they used different parts of the building. So it was, I mean, there may have been some people that were there for both or certain vendors, but there was a completely different selection.
So what I'm going to do actually is, last year I had 2 dates at the same venue. This year I'm only going to do 1 date at that venue, but in April I'm just going to do a small Sunday show. Just a, little cheap for vendors, cheap for attendees. Let's see if we get a Sunday crowd, because I may be empty-handed, in which case, why would I move to 2 or 3 days if nobody shows up on Sunday?
So you're doing a Detroit Retro Junior Con.
But I'm going to call it something else. I'm just going to call it a collectible swap meet. Video game collectible swap meet. So I'm not going to call it Detroit Retro Gaming Show, because if it fails, then doesn't have my name on it. I'm going to say I'm sponsoring it, right?
Right.
And it's on a Sunday in April, which, like I said, November is our chosen main show, but to do a little swap meet without any, anything else but vendors, it's just kind of a quick and dirty. Let's see if people show up on Sunday.
Tony, so speaking of swap meets, before you started,
Torg is doing that now too. Torg is going to do something swap meet.
I saw that Torg made that announcement as well.
You know what? Missouri Game Con's done that too. They have a junior con as well as the main con. Tony, Game Central Station, did you do swap meets before you had the actual con, or is it one and the same?
It's one and the same, really. Like I've never called it a video game convention myself. We like to consider ourselves the shop and swap, because we're getting there. But it's more like the vendor focus eccentric. We really have mainly a vendor attraction. The last show we did was the first time we ever had a guest, and we had Tiffany Grant out, who's the voice of Asuka from Evangelion anime, and she was great. So for first time guest, it was a great experience having somebody as good as she was, especially with the guest that came up to her. She would talk with them for 30, 45 minutes, and people would just wait in line and love waiting there to talk to her. But that's the first time kind of, I'm sorry?
It didn't cost you thousands of dollars to bring her in there, just kind of like travel.
No, she's actually local to Atlanta, so that was really good. She's only about an hour and a half away from where we are, so just travel expenses, hotel room, and a little bit of per diem money for her, and she was happy. And she sold some of her stuff there at the table as well, so she was, we didn't have like a so the $60 for the autograph and the $100 for the thing, like that was all on her. If she wanted to sell her stuff, she could, but she would autograph anything. If you walked up, she signed it for you if you had it. It wasn't like she's charging everybody for autographs thing. So it was really nice and kind of fit our vibe of that more local community aspect, feel of it, versus like, a business transaction. I'm going to go up here and get this guy's autograph, pay him money, and then walk away. So that was really nice for us. But yeah, it's always just been the vendor focus. We're trying to bring in some more arcade stuff. I think we're going to look into that for not this coming up show, but the one after, because a lot of the money that we make really just goes back into the venue, buying a venue, paying a guest if we can get one out. Advertising is literally the most expensive thing that we're dealing with currently, is trying to get that out there and tell people about it. So that's kind of really where all the budget goes into that. So hopefully after this show, we'll have enough put back to really get that kind of other attraction, some arcades and just small stuff like that. Because a lot of our free play area is literally stuff I pull out of the closet and bring up and let people play with. It's our personal collection stuff. Myself and Shane both. Like, big shout out to my partner Shane, by the way. He puts in a lot of work for it as well. So, me and him together, it's literally just bringing out collection stuff for people to get their hands on and play stuff. And we've got a lot of locals too that'll say, hey, can I bring out this, like some older stuff that like you don't really see a lot. And he's like, I'll be happy to bring it out and set it up and let people play it. They're happy to show that kind of stuff to people and get more people interested. So it's really nice to have that local community involved.
I'm going to put this link in the chat, Dave's Arcade. If I was in your area, I would be reaching out to him. Not only can he probably provide you with some decent rentals at an affordable rate, he probably knows people that can draw more people into your show. So I would
networking is definitely number one for us too. We love talking to people that are involved in other stuff, that we're not necessarily an expert in the field of, because like we don't really do arcades or pinball stuff ourselves. We're mainly console gamers. So, to have somebody else in a different realm that's nice to work with and easy to work with is always a bonus.
Yeah, like I said, from a reference standpoint, I bought tons of games off of him in the last 20 years. Okay. And I've never met him in person, but I've talked to him on the phone a million times, and he's the greatest guy in the world. So nice. I would definitely reach out to him.
Oh yeah, appreciate that very much.
All right. I guess I'll ask you all future goals. Who wants to go first?
We want to be Southeast Game Exchange.
Same
right
here.
now, you're a vendor at Southeast Game Exchange.
We are. We definitely do that every year. That's one of our biggest shows.
A con within a con.
I take the vacation days. I take the days off of work like a year ahead of time for Southeast Game Exchange.
Thank you. That's very flattering.
Austin?
Goals for us. Well, we are already, like I said, we're in a transition phase, sort of it's becoming a business as opposed to just being a hobby, which kind of like what Tony was saying, reinvesting all of everything we made. We didn't take $1 out of it ourselves until like the 7th year, I think. Yeah. And so it and now it's allowed us to hire some people to work on it full time, and which we're hoping even elevates the show even that much greater. We've got some really cool things that we're planning this year, and we think that it will take the show to a whole nother level of immersiveness, and it'll just it'll give the attendee an experience that hopefully they don't get anywhere else. So yeah, for us, that's kind of where our goal is to make that kind of move from it just being a hobby to it being a business where we can be on the same level as Midwest and PRGE and Too Many Games and Game On and some of those other regionally large conventions.
So, I can't even imagine how much work Dan Lucen puts in to get to the game. Midwest Gaming.
Well, I know for us, while we are obviously working on 2025, we are already setting things up for 2026 right now.
Yeah.
We've got guests that are committing to our 2026 show already, and we've got different plans. It'll be our 10-year anniversary show, so we're working on what we can do for that. Obviously, we're going to this 3-day a big move for us, but there's a lot of things that I would like to eventually do. One thing that we do every year that's I guess what is taking up a lot of our time right now. We did this last year for the first time. I don't know if you guys are big Nintendo Switch players or fans or anything like that, but
especially they revealed the Nintendo
they
Switch
revealed
number
the Switch
2.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they do a Nintendo Direct a lot that kind of is a showcase of what new games they have coming out. Well, last year we did a Southeast Game Exchange showcase, and it was just a highly produced show where we announced different special guests, different new event, things coming to the show. We have plans to do that again this year, so we're very much working on that. We'll be releasing that, I believe February 27th is the day that will go live, and we'll have a lot of our big announcements. But we're planning on probably doing that one more year into our 10th year, and then that's kind of our where we're looking is to make that next step to being a Midwest Gaming Classic, not quite that size, but work our way in that direction.
Andy?
Well, I'd like to, hopefully in 5 years I'm like Austin, but I got to really be careful what I'm doing. This is going to be a very sustained growth.
Yes.
Like I said, given with my competition, and also, when Niemeyer and the Pecinas and Tim Kissrow were with me, they had talked about a couple conventions that they went to where the guys went seriously in the red. I don't remember the names of them, but they just didn't hit the mark. So I'm watching my growth very carefully. I'm watching my competition very carefully. Everything is very cautious. I think, Austin, you've got the advantage that there isn't a whole lot of other stuff going on down there, and you really carved out a niche. So kudos to you for that.
Well, I will say that you bring up being cautious. That is how we did it. We've never borrowed $1 to put on this show. Right. We've always taken any profits that we made that rolled over into putting on the next show and growing the show. And I personally think that is the responsible way of doing building a community and building a show, is doing it that way, because then if you have a bad year, you're not sunk.
Right.
So I think that is, like I said, I think that's the best way to do it. That's how we did it. I'm not saying that we have all the answers.
No, I think you're right on the money there, because that's the exact same way we've been doing it the whole time as well. Literally, the vendor space or the vendor money covers the event hall, or when we started, it was like a place in a flea market. We rented like a restaurant in a flea market for like $500 for the weekend, had 11 vendors.
And that's how we started.
Our first 4 shows that we did were all free to attend. So literally it was the vendors covering the area. I would sell my own personal stuff. I would be a vendor at our show as well, but now it's gotten to the point where that's not feasible at all. But that's the only way that I made profit at any of those first 4 shows, was just selling, vendor stock.
Yeah.
But everything just goes right back into it, and it just grows that way, and I've got a full-time job. I make really good money selling car parts. So it's like, I don't need Game Central Station to pay my bills. So it's like, I have no problem taking anything and just rolling it back over. Like, I got no beef with that at all. That's how you get that next level.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been in the red a little bit just on, capital investments. So, like the video games, I could turn around and sell them if I really needed to, if it really was that big of a deal. It's sitting there. And also, I am not borrowing money, and I'm not taking, where people, I've had several people approach me. We can throw, tens of thousands of dollars at this and make it huge. We just want money off the door. We want the door.
Make your money back.
Yeah, I don't
Right,
want your
yeah.
I don't want your $20,000. I'm not signing a deal with the devil, and I don't think throwing $10,000 at a show is going to bring, tens of thousands of people. It's just going to happen when it happens, and it's going to grow as it grows.
Money doesn't necessarily translate into attendees.
No.
It's really,
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. No, I agree. So to sum it up, short, controlled growth. 5 years from now, if I've only got 500 more people, then I've only got 500 more people.
Well,
I just want to figure out a way, the next one, I want to figure out a way to make it fun for me.
Right.
I mean, I want to make it's always fun for everybody else, but the last one happened on the same day that the election was going on, the presidential election. We were
on a Tuesday?
Well, on the Saturday before the Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
What happened in Michigan is they've had early voting. And so since it's a municipal facility, people were early voting the same day. And so the city employee, so they're in this facility in another sectioned off piece of this facility. And, they told me it's not going to be a problem. They're going to have their own private entrance. The city employees are going to handle it. You won't even know. Worst case, they take up some of the parking. Well, yeah, they hog the parking. And they were wandering their way into the show. And so me and the city clerk were screaming at each other. I'm like, you're not doing what you told me to do. You were going to do. We signed a contract, and they were making a big deal about that. And at one point, somebody actually brought their ballot, handed it to me. They're like, do I give this to you? I'm like, well, I don't know. Who'd you vote for?
Well, yeah. And they claim there's no voting problems.
Right.
Yeah,
So the city now has said they learned their lesson. They're not going to have any shows when there's voting going on. I'm like, okay.
They should have learned that like decades ago.
Well, yeah, but this had never happened before. And the early voting was a new thing. It used to be you vote on Tuesday and that's it. Now you can vote 2 weeks ahead of time. Right. So
they're having like 2 months of voting.
Yeah. So
ridiculous.
Every state's different. And so that was a new thing. So now they're not going to allow me to have the show there. So even though I'm trying to dodge this other, Yamacon show, well, I can't have it there anyways. They don't want me there because there's voting coming up this November. And I said, well, it's not a midterm election. It's not a presidential election. What's the big deal? They're like, oh, well, they'll be voting for, proposals, and they'll be voting for
mayor or governor.
Right. So can't win. So that won't be a problem anymore. But that was a lot of stress. These people.
Although I will say, congratulations, you're going to be finally rid of Nurse Ratchet. That's my nickname for the governor of Michigan. The way she acts as a person.
Let's not talk about politics.
I know. Well, you see my nickname there, Mad Conservative.
I don't disagree with you. I just don't want to go there. Okay? Enough said.
Okay.
My mama said if you ain't got nothing nice to say, you just don't.
I do tend to.
I don't politic and I don't sport ball.
Although, doggone it, they certainly tried to inject politics in the gaming last year, big time, and that's been a giant mess. The game companies blowing hundreds of millions of dollars on a game, and then the gamers rejected it because they did not want to be preached to in the game. They don't want this crap. They want to escape the real world and all the bizarrities that are going on. Maybe the stuff in the game reminds them of what their job is, and they don't want.
With winners
I bet you if somebody made voting simulator, it would make a ton of money.
I don't,
And
boy,
now the Hayden-
that's it. That's an idea.
idea.
I think there was a Japanese release of a game where I'm running for president, but I don't think anything like that has come out since.
Nice.
I wouldn't want to run for president.
Well, final thoughts, gentlemen. Anything?
I will say, Tony, Andy, if you guys are ever looking for special guests, one of the very first special guests that we brought in was Kenny James, who's the voice of Bowser. His terms are always extremely reasonable, and he just putting Bowser on your flyers as a recognizable character, it seemed to be. I mean, it is really what kind of got us into the voice acting guests, but yeah, he was extremely easy to work with, very reasonable terms, and it was he's a character that everybody recognizes. So I'll throw that out to you guys if y'all are looking for somebody, or if you ever want to dip your toes into the voice actors. He's a really good one.
That's probably a good next step for me. Him, and I was also thinking about the guy that did the voice of Duke Nukem.
Yeah, I have not had him out. I'm trying to remember his name. John St. John.
Yeah, St. John.
Yeah.
I found the previous podcast, the part one of this, you guys talked about that, but I didn't catch a part where you hired him through an agent or you reached out to him directly. I think it was through an agent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and if you need, I've got his agents. So if you ever want, hit me up and I can give you all the agents for. I've worked with about a dozen of them now, and can kind of tell you who's with who and whatever. But
how nice is it when you can reach directly out to somebody though?
So
instead of having to go through an agent.
I used to think
is it
that.
like okay.
I used to think that until dealing with somebody that we were working directly with instead of going through an agent and trying to get confirmations on things as far as travel, trying to get them to send us anything, any type of communication when they were at the show. They were just kind of difficult, and it made me honestly really appreciate going through some agents. And so now I've developed some really good relationships with some of the agents that I work with, and
right.
If you could share that would be very helpful. I'd really
absolutely. And they go and do a lot of the grunt work that I don't have to do when I work.
That's good. The last ones that I had to deal with, I had to do all that. I had to book the hotel. I had to figure,
and a lot of
sounds familiar.
Yeah,
a lot of times you'll still have to do that, but they'll get all the details for you so that it's literally just click, type in their name and it's booked and stuff. So it's flip side. I've got a guest coming this year that we booked directly, and thankfully she's been very that person has been very. I'm not supposed to give anything away yet.
Okay.
But
I'm not going to be able to guess who it is based on.
No.
Who.
Well, I'm actually super excited about this person. I already gave it as a she, but she'll be making her first U.S. appearance at our show this year. So I'm really excited about her, and she voices a major character in a major franchise. So
all right. Well, now you gave a couple of hints.
Gave a couple of hints. You'll have to wait until February to see the full announcement on it. But we're keeping it very, very close to the chest. But she has been fantastic to work with and has been very, very responsive. So there are that working directly with them. It is a good experience, but honestly, working with the agents sometimes a lot easier. Especially if you're trying to book more than one person. Sometimes, like some of these agents, I'm booking 4 or 5 people, and it's just easier to just have a one person you're working with as opposed to trying to juggle all of those people. So it depends on the person. But,
right. For the most part, they're not really too responsive.
Yeah, and not every agent is the same. Some are really good, and some are very, very frustrating and difficult to work with. So,
especially in the wrestling business.
Oh, wrestling is a whole wrestling is completely different than the voice actors and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, I heard stories about the voice actors and their handlers and all that kind of stuff. So, who knows?
Yeah, and some of that, like I said, we dipped our toes, and we started off with just one voice actor, and it was Kenny James. And then the next year we went and did 2, and then we kind of learned the business a little bit and learned how to do things with working with agents and agencies and voice actors and having to provide handlers and what's expected and how do we run it easily. And it I definitely, like, I know some shows just jump in and have a whole bunch of special guests, and
those are the ones that are losing a lot of money.
Yeah, I recommend start off with 1 or 2 and kind of get the feel of how it goes and how it fits into your show, because every show's got their own unique flavor. And like I'm very good friends with I'm friends with John Lester, who runs Game On over down in Arizona. And he's kind of mentored me a little bit on how running up my show. But his show has it's retro gaming it's gaming and anime. Well, we don't really have a big anime presence at my show.
Right.
There's a lot of crossover there too.
There's a lot of crossover, and we will have some anime, but it's not I don't want us to necessarily be a retro and anime show. So we're trying to carve out what is our unique flavor.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you already got a niche as it is down there. There is no other anime. If you don't, somebody is probably going to.
There is an anime show that is started last year, I believe, and so it's happening. And then there's a Comic-Con. So, but we're really trying to be like I don't know, if I had to say what we're maybe like the PAX of retro gaming, maybe is kind of where we're kind of leaning towards what we want to do. We would have loved to get into some of the stuff that, like, we'd love to get some musicians out and start doing more, have a little bit of like what MagFest does up in the Northeast, not go all the way that direction, but maybe have one or 2 bands and throw a little concert or whatever, something like that. That'd be kind of cool. So I mean, we're trying to just a little bit of everything, trying to find out what our little flavor is.
So Korgs tried to do that, tried to have a band last year, and it failed horribly, and it pissed a lot of people off.
Uh-oh.
Be careful.
So we've had bands, but we do a kickoff party. So every Friday evening before the show. This year it'll be a little different since our show starts on Friday. But every Friday evening before the show, we'll have a kickoff party. We partner with a little local barcade, and that has like a little musical area, band area. I would say it's a stage, but it's not really a stage. It's not a platform or anything. It's just a area designated for musical guests. And so we bring in a musical guest to play while everybody's having drinks and playing arcades. But other than that, we haven't really gone into concert. I definitely, if we ever do go into more of a concert, it's not going to be during vendor hours. It would be that's something that we're kind of looking into now is for our guests that are committing to come in for multiple days. How do we provide entertainment for them, not just at the show, but even after the vendor hall closes? So those are things that we're kind of looking into now and trying to figure out how do we make this a full-on weekend of gaming fun outside of just the vendor hall.
So one thing that we didn't talk about, the three of us, is alcohol. And, what do you do? I have people ask me, not all the time, because at 11 o'clock in the morning, who's going to have a drink? But, at some point, especially when we're talking about entertainment and going into the evening and the next day and the day before, obviously you've got it covered with the barcade that, takes that away from you. But from an insurance perspective, I looked into that. The insurance just goes through the roof once you get alcohol involved for obvious reasons. So,
plus, if you're serving, you have to have a cop on duty at all times.
Yeah.
Well, down here in Georgia, anyway. That's what
one of Midwest Gaming's former locations, there was a bar. Well, it was in a hotel, so getting to the bar area was serving alcohol. Well, he took it downstairs and was in one of the arcade areas, and he spilled his beer on Galloping Ghosts Primal Rage 2 and caused the thing to shut down. Well, they managed to clean it up and get it back up and running, but good gosh. Spilled his beer in, there's only a couple of them in the world, and they had not at the time fully emulated the game yet. So yeah, that was horrific.
Yeah, I think a dedicated food area, very much like Austin had at the last show. It was kind of like, here's the food area. Keep your stuff kind of in here, Don't walk around eating and having your drink, your circles where you set your drink down to look at something, on somebody's stuff, So it's really,
if you're playing the game, you're supposed to sit on the floor anyway.
An attendee thing at that point, right? Yeah. If it's not my arcade, why the hell am I setting my drink on it? I'm not. No way.
Sit on the floor.
Don't think about things that aren't theirs.
For us,
that's true. That's very true.
For us, we've always promoted our show as very family friendly, and so we've just stayed away from alcohol during the show times. Now, obviously, like I said, we partnered up with a barcade, and so people obviously go and partake in drinking there, and then a lot of times we'll get together Saturday nights after the first day of the show, and a lot of the vendors and special guests and staff will all get together at another little bar and have drinks and food and stuff like that. So we do
at it in a big way, but I don't know how much that really helped, and I don't think Gary saw a dime of that, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like it's probably just best if Tony, didn't you guys actually used to set up at a brewery, or was that? Yeah. So that
Yeah.
that makes sense because everybody's like shopping and drinking and having a good time. That's
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
one thing
we've
that's
talked
to
about
me is
doing alcohol, but it's just not. I don't think it's like you said. The insurance for it, is through the roof.
Mhm.
If the venue has a liquor license and has that kind of stuff, if it's their concession stand and they're running that, I could definitely see it being like a perk to the show a little bit because definitely you get a couple drinks in, people get loose wallets, they're like, oh man, I love that, and then they're more apt to buy stuff. But as for Game Central Station supplying alcohol at our show, I don't foresee that we're going to be really doing that. Not anytime in the near future anyway, because just liability wise, like I couldn't live with myself if somebody got toasted at the show and drove out of there and wound up, there's no, I don't want that on my conscience.
Yeah.
All right.
Anytime you have something like that available, people overindulge. Whether you want them to or not, some people are going to.
you're right.
How do you? I've got a question now for you guys. How do you guys manage your vendors? What do you guys use as far as any type of vendor management software tools? I can tell you, for the well, up until this year, use just Excel. And yeah, just curious, what do you guys use? How do you go about managing your vendors?
I'm doing it manually now, like you're talking about. Actually, Cleveland uses something called Surge Events or something like that. And I was going to at least start looking into that. I just don't think I had the volume to make it worth doing. I mean, obviously, Cleveland is 2 to 3 days. Their vendor costs are a lot higher. It's just not at this point. I mean, I need to look at it more, but at this point, it's not really feasible to use that at this point. But it is getting stressful to do it manually too, because I use contracts and I make them sign. Some people have backed away from my contracts, but I've already been involved in a lawsuit once about some guy brought his 2 kids, and one of them ran the other kid's foot over with a dolly. And so they tried to sue me for that. Luckily, I had a contract in place that wasn't my problem. And whenever somebody files a junk lawsuit, they're supposed to pay your attorney fees. Well, I haven't seen my money yet. So everybody signs a contract, whether they like it or not. And some people have choked on the terms and conditions, and some people take their sweet time to print it out, sign it, scan it, and send it back to me. Well, you do it or you don't vend.
Yeah.
And I know some of the other cons don't make them sign contracts. That's a huge mistake if you're not making them sign contracts, especially bootleg.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Bootleg equipment will destroy your show if somebody gets caught and fingers you for it.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. I'm already seeing these counterfeit Pokemon cartridges out there.
Oh,
3D printing is a huge problem. People have said, well, we should bring the Nintendo rep in here. No, we shouldn't. This show would be over if we brought the Nintendo rep in here.
And then all these doggone, reproduction cartridges. All right.
We pretty much do the same thing. Excel spreadsheet, Google Sheets. Being that we're just now topping 100 vendor tables or right at it, it's been a little easier to do manually. But luckily, like with the website, if anybody is interested in it, we can direct them to the website. They click on the table they want, and the application's already pretty much filled out. So it's just a point of them signing it and sending it back to us, making the payment, and then we put them on the list.
That's good.
Typically don't have, we've got a good bit of people that say, I want a spot, and, typically our go-to is, well, go ahead and pay for it because it's kind of first come, first serve. I don't want to hold a spot for somebody, and then a week before the show, they're like, no, well, we decided not to do it. And then, you got to scramble to fill that spot or however many. So it's kind of like you pay, we put you on the list, and that's how we build it down.
And you don't get, no refunds. At least, I mean, I say no refunds at all. Some
Right.
shows say a week before, 2 weeks before.
We give 30 days. I mean, I figured 30 days is fair. And again, a lot of the vendors that we know are like personal friends in our group chats on our Facebook page. So, if somebody comes to us and says, hey, look, I've got this problem, okay, sure. Yeah, we got you covered. No worries. But, 2 weeks before the show, we got to fill that spot. If it don't get filled, I don't want to lose money on it. So, it is what it is. And the shows before, we've done it where it's like, okay, you can't be here. You tell us 2 weeks before. If we can fill the spot, we can help you out with a refund. But if we can't, sorry.
Fair enough.
All right. So it is. We've gone 3 hours, so I think it's about time to wrap this up. Yes, and Andy let me know that he's about to fall asleep. Well, I'm tired as well. I want to thank you all for coming in tonight, and that was pretty informative. I know you're way out of the way, way far away from me, but I don't know. Once I don't have as many pets as I do now, maybe I can travel the country a bit more. Well, certainly after I retire.
Let me throw out a thank you from Georgia, because you hear a lot of content creators that do the attending part of the shows. You hear some vendors, they do, videos of the vending part of it, but you really don't hear a lot of the behind the scenes, the people that run the shows, the people that put in the work to make it happen. You don't hear a lot out of us. So thank you for having us on and letting us kind of speak about it and letting people see another side of it.
All right. Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'm certainly a fan of the game cons, and I will be going to Midwest Gaming Classic for the 21st time this year. And hopefully I won't, I hope I get a bigger fill of the con than I did last year, because I didn't feel like I got enough last year. So, all right, Andy, Austin, and Tony, have a good night, gentlemen, and maybe I'll see you around the Galvin Ghost at some point.
For sure.
Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Get out there at some point.
All right.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
All right. So, who is my guest next week? My guest next week will be a podcaster, YouTuber roundtable. We'll have the host of In Squared, which will be Rocky Castro, the host of The Game Closet, Dr. Scott, and the video game votary, who was in the chat earlier. Marcus Bruce will be on this podcast. We're going to talk about content creation and doing a show like this and posting videos on YouTube, whether it's on podcasts on Spotify or Podomatic, or maybe you're doing a Twitch stream or YouTube stream or a Facebook stream. We'll talk about the gaming podcasters on this podcast next week here on the Crimeycade, me being one of them. All right. Until next time, I'm Matt Kazuru, Crime Fighter. Thank you for joining me tonight. And, I was going to talk about changes with the Monday Mystery game, but it's been 3 hours and I'm ready to go to bed. Somebody I know wants to come on the podcast, and I'll do the podcast on Wednesday night, so maybe I'll get him in next Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see. Till next time, the next conservative crime fighter, Stephen Lucas, former Game of the Year, 91 Nintendo Tennis Challenge National Champion. Have a good night, everybody.